But the recommendation should be it's supposed to go back to the Ministry of Education. What are we talking about? That is our discussion this morning. I have got three people. I have got Gatacha, who is Wairimo Gatacha, who is an advocate of the High Court, Kevin Osido, and George Kithi will also be joining me here at 7 a.m. Join me as we talk about that. We all know what NGCDF bursary mean to you and I and the politician, right, Vivian?
Yes. And that money has really helped a lot of people. And it comes in handy for so many people. So I'll definitely be tuning into your conversation just to get to hear which way. Today being a Tuesday, you know that we speak health matters right here on Good Morning Kenya, and I'll be having a conversation on hemophilia and specifically on managing hemophilia as a disorder. Now, this is a disorder in which blood does not clot normally, causing excessive bleeding. We will be looking at what are some of the causes to that and what are the treatment options available. And joining me in studio will be Marilyn Magai, who is a hemophilia nurse, and then we'll also be having Billy Mureithi, who is a parent to a child who has hemophilia. You definitely want to stay tuned for that. We will be up at exactly 9 a.m. So I'll see you then for that conversation. In the meantime, Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Vivian, Tim, and everyone who is watching Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwe. You have the show already indicating what it will be handling, and I invite you to tune into today's live broadcast. I want to interest you in a quote for the day. You can't make a cloudy day a sunny day, but you can embrace it and decide it's going to be a good day after all. You can't make a cloudy day a sunny day, but you can embrace it and decide it's going to be a good day after all. That is a quote by Jane Lynch. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning to you, Tim. Glad that you made it for Good Morning Kenya just in time for comprehensive news coverage of stories that have been making headlines in the last 12 hours or so. And we'll start off on a high, so to speak, where you will be paying less for fuel next month. That is the period between 14th, that was yesterday, to 14th of next month, following a decision by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority to lower the pump prices. Now, as from midnight yesterday, super petrol reduced by 1 shilling and 95 cents per litre, while diesel went down by 2 shillings and 20 cents, while kerosene reduced by 2 shillings and 40 cents per litre. Here's Caroline Njenga with the details.
You will pay less for fuel as from Tuesday, thanks to reduced landed cost of petroleum products and a decision by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority to tap the Fuel Stabilization Fund to cushion consumers from higher pump prices. A statement by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority indicates that the landed cost of super petrol decreased by 4.89%, diesel by 6.45%, while kerosene was lower by 6.53%. In addition, the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority tapped the Fuel Stabilization Kitty to reduce the pump price of super petrol by 4 shillings and 66 cents per litre, diesel by 6 shillings and 9 cents, while kerosene was lowered by 6 shillings and 18 cents per litre. The overall effect is a pump price reduction effective from midnight. Fuel is cheapest in Mombasa, where a litre of super petrol will retail at 171 shillings and 39 cents, diesel at 161 shillings and 62 cents, and kerosene 145 shillings and 75 cents. Fuel is most expensive in Mandera, where a litre of super petrol is priced at 188 shillings and 64 cents, diesel at 178 shillings and 87 cents, while kerosene will cost 162 shillings and 99 cents.
Well, that is good news for motorists, and I'm sure it's going to impact on how much you get to spend in your household. There's been a lot of questions, like if government had not tapped into the price stabilization fund, how much would it have cost, at the pump? Secondly, the OMs are getting a cool 15 shillings per litre. If you look at that particular report that has already been made public, you might want to do the math and also compare with the regional cost of fuel across the region, and also just look at the global oil prices. Just recently, we also had government extend its G2G deal in as far as matters of fuel or other petroleum products are concerned. We will be unpacking that as we focus on matters business as we go forward. Now, to other stories that have been making headlines. We are focused on, let's have a look at county governments now are set to conduct a head count of all universal health care coverage workers to enhance accountability as the national government moves to settle a long-time push for the absorption of UHC staff. Now, this one is one of the resolutions that was reached in a consultative meeting between the county bosses and the Ministry of Health. The national government is expected to transfer to the devolved units funds according to the salary scale approved by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
Efforts to cure the emerging issues bedeviling the new health scheme, the Social Health Authority, intensify in a move to ensure the national government delivers affordable health care to all. A consultative meeting between the Ministry of Health and the Council of Governors resolved on a number of measures to address the gaps.
The Digital Health Agency shall expedite the distribution of all devices to the remaining public health facilities in counties in support of digitization.
I want to confirm to the nation we have paid all facilities who posted their claim regularly and legally. We will weed out corruption.
Absorption of universal health coverage staff and payment of community health promoters was part of the way forward.
That the counties undertake a head count of the universal health coverage workers, UHC workers, to enhance accountability.
What we need is for the ministry to release this staff to the counties, but not only release the staff, they also need to ensure that they provide the requisite funds or resources to make sure that these staff can be paid or remunerated at the rate that their colleagues are being remunerated at.
Also in the resolutions was fixing electricity and internet connectivity challenges and boosting funds for emergency and chronic care.
Our challenge with the Ministry of Health has not been agreeing with them or reaching agreements. Our challenge has been honoring those agreements, implementing them, following them through. And now we have assurance.
Taifa Care rollout is in progress. We have done 6 counties so far. Beginning 20th of this month, we are going to do another 13 counties where we will distribute gadgets.
Currently, over 21 million Kenyans have registered in the new scheme.
Those 21,000 can access free any of our primary health centers or facilities, be they public, be they private, and be they faith-based facilities.
The issue of prescription drugs that have been abused, but we said we will have a technical team at the ministry working together with our COG to come up with policies to protect our kids from the misuse of prescription drugs, the codeine and the like.
As reforms take shape, Kenyans are hopeful that these efforts will translate into reliable, quality and accessible healthcare for all.
Universal health coverage has been one of the pillars and better there. And it has been going through headwinds, especially with the transition from NHIF to now SHIF, that is under Taifa Care, with the SHA providing oversight. Now, the government has expressed regret over an incident where Butere Girls High School failed to showcase their play at the National Drama Festivals in Nakuru. The government spokesperson, Dr. Isaac Mauro, while addressing the media, however, cautioned politicians against using school children in advancing their political agenda.
Controversies surrounding echoes of war have drawn both public and government concerns after it made headlines at the National Drama and Film Festivals in Nakuru. The government says it regrets the incident and investigations are underway.
It's regrettable, of course, that our police used tear gas against the journalists and also the children. That is regrettable. And as a government, we want to say that is not acceptable and action shall be taken accordingly. However, it is important to set the record straight that matter has been highly politicized, and of course every other Tom, Dick and Harry, they have jumped in to mince political mileage out of it. It's unfortunate, and we will not tolerate as a government going forward such behavior. The rules must be followed. Teachers must ensure that they have the right people who train their children.
Meanwhile, the government has cautioned Kenyans against misinformation about amendments to the Finance Act.
The government unequivocally states that there is no Finance Bill 2025 tabled anywhere yet, and such outrageous claims should be shunned. And we are calling upon the members of the press to help us so that we do not spread propaganda. Accordingly, Kenyans will have the opportunity to interrogate any revenue-raising measure through a thorough public participation only after the draft budget and finance bill have been released by the National Treasury.
Mwaura highlighted what he termed as the successful registration of over 19 million Kenyans under the new healthcare system. The government has also deployed 3 mobile laboratories to the northeastern region to combat the spread of Kala-Azar, a vector-borne disease affecting the area.
A satellite blood bank equipped with a new blood analysis machine has been established to support critical care, significantly improving patient outcomes. And because of these efforts, therefore, recoveries now surpass new infections.
The government has also cautioned high school principals against withholding academic certificates of students with fee arrears.
Now, that particular brief by the government spokesperson amid claims that Principal Butere Girls has since been transferred to Wajir. We are still trying to confirm those particular claims that are very rife, especially on social media there. We're also going to be keeping tabs on government's conversation. So tonight on The Shift, we're going to be hosting none other than Deputy Government Spokesperson Gabriel Muthuma, who is just going to unpack the government communication strategy. Is it information or propaganda? So let's keep it right here for that particular. Definitely going to be a heated debate there, but yes, we'll be there and we'll be listening as well as watching for your feedback on our various social media platforms. Now, President William Ruto has lauded the vital role that religious leaders are playing in shaping society, underscoring their significant contribution to maintaining moral integrity. He stressed that the country's progress relies on the combined efforts of all leadership sectors, including political and religious figures. The president also recognized the religious community's active participation in education and healthcare, highlighting their unwavering commitment to the national well-being and advancement. He made the remarks during a meeting with religious leaders from Kiambaa, Kabete and Thika in Kiambu County, which took place at State House, Nairobi, yesterday.
We have a great nation. Let us not bring it down with rumors, negative energy, vitu ambayo haisaidii. Our intentions are good and we want to do what is right for our nation.
Scholars in Kiswahili are challenging the African leaders to market the language, which they tout as the only avenue that can unite the continent to safeguard its identity. Speakers at the ongoing Kiswahili International Conference taking place in Kampala, Uganda, opine that the efforts of neo-colonialism can be broken if the continent adopts a single language for its daily transactions. Well, our reporter Nancy Okware and Kaschana Masha are down there in Kampala and filed the following report.
Kololo Independent Grounds in Kampala, Uganda, brought together the finest in Kiswahili as scholars try to rally the continent to adopt the language whose roots can be traced to Zanzibar a century ago.
Sisi wa Afrika lazima tujinasue kutoka kwa minyororo ya ukoloni mamboleo ya kudhani ya kwamba ukijieleza kwa ufasaha kwa lugha ya Kiingereza, Kireno au Kifaransa basi wewe si bwege tena. La hash.
Lugha ya Kiswahili iweze kutambuliwa kama lingua franca ya kusini mwa jangwa la Sahara.
Those who addressed the congregation terming as illusion attempts by the East African community to enter into an integration without a single unified language.
Tukishirikiana na kujifunza lugha ya Kiswahili, tukapatana na tamaduni zetu zote, tutakuza Kiswahili hiki kwa sababu tutaheshimu tamaduni za labda wa Kenya, wa Tanzania na Waganda.
Their fingers pointing at tribal chiefs who hold on their native languages for survival, warning such moves are futile in the current globalized world.
Wanaozungumza Lugwere, wanaozungumza Luluya, tafuteni wazungumzaji wa Luya wazuri, andikeni vitabu vya Kiswahili kwa kutumia Kiluya. Wakifanya hivyo, mnainua lugha ya Kiluya na mnajenga lugha ya Kiswahili kama lugha moja. Let it be a language of African Union. I hear that people say when we have duplication of languages, there will be confusion, there will be linguistic confusion. No, it will enhance the efflorescence of African culture and language.
The Kiswahili scholars calling for collaborations of mainly Swahili writers from across the continent to team up and help enrich the language they termed progressive and whose future is shining bright. To help grow the language, scholars too have been challenged to put in place succession plans and build a generation of young writers who will turn ambassadors of the language.
The International Kiswahili Conference has set the pace for actions that countries need to undertake in order to ensure proper use of the language, especially as a unifying factor. Nancy Okware reporting from Kololo Grounds in Kampala, Uganda.
To agriculture, now the government has dismissed claims that Russia donated fertilizer, highlighting that Kenya received components and not ready to use fertilizer. Agriculture Principal Secretary Dr. Paul Rono says despite the donation of the fertilizer component, Kenya had to incur additional costs of blending and purchasing additional fertilizer components whose cost was passed on to farmers.
The government says the 34,000 tons of chemical donations from Russia was not finished fertilizer, but fertilizer-making components.
We got the components of manufacturing of fertilizers from Russia are close to 34 metric tons in 2023. When we got those border from Russia, they were in border form for manufacturing of fertilizers, because fertilizers have got different components. So this one came in border form.
Agriculture Principal Secretary Dr. Paul Rono says farmers were billed for the subsidy fertilizer despite the donation to offset cost on blending and purchase of additional fertilizer components.
For anybody to say we got free fertilizers donated and we sold, as a Ministry of Agriculture, we want to say that is the fact. We didn't get fertilizer first of all. It was a component for making fertilizer. That is a fact. And if we are again to be given the same border or substances for making fertilizer, we will still repeat the same.
Dr. Rono says fertilizer blending farms were sourced competitively.
We look for a farm through competitive bidding to do granulation and manufacture fertilizers for our farmers.
He made the remarks during a briefing on Kenya's National Food System Stock-Taking Moment 2-day summit that kicks off in Nairobi on Tuesday.
Financial service players should step up the use of technology to empower customers in order to build cybersecurity resilience. Speaking at the tech exhibition GTEx Africa in Marrakesh, Morocco, M-Pesa head of cybersecurity Tim Theuri said many firms focus and invest in securing core technology, yet most of the cyber threats are at the point of customer interaction with the tech systems. Here's Betty Kiptum, who is in Marrakesh, Morocco.
The National Kenya Computer Incident Response Team Coordination Center detected over 840 million cyber threat events between October to December last year, marking a 27.82% increase from the previous quarter. Kenya's financial services space largely operates on mobile money, with a majority of customers relying on mobile banking. Players in this space say to stay ahead of cyber criminals, companies ought to step up awareness and empower customers to protect their data as they interact with their systems.
It's actually more lucrative for the hacker to actually target that customer and steal $1, $2, $3 from the customer, then target the core system, which is heavily defended. Because of that, what we realized is that the only way to be able to protect our customers is to empower them.
Theory says the trick is to view cybersecurity as a business enabler, incorporating it in operations right from the innovation stage.
Cybersecurity was always viewed as a stopper, but I think now, as a cybersecurity industry, we've pivoted so that we can now partner with business, so that whenever there are new innovative technologies, cybersecurity comes in at that initial concept stage, just to ensure that from a design perspective to an implementation, wherever product we are implementing, it is 100% secure without any vulnerabilities. Then after that, continuing to monitor just to ensure that security still remains a topmost priority and is maintained fully.
As technology continues to evolve, more humans are interacting with it, and systems are only as strong as the people that are using them. Companies have been urged to invest more in ensuring that consumers are aware of their cybersecurity needs and protecting their data as well as their money at point of use. Reporting from Marrakesh in Morocco, my name is Betty Kiptum.
The government has begun a one-week sensitization campaign for potential homeowners through the Affordable Housing Program. The exercise starts today and will see members of the public taken through a tour of upcoming projects with staff from the Affordable Housing Project boarding fielding questions from the public. The exercise kicks off in central Kenya, targeting the counties of Kirinyaga, Embu, Laikipia, Nyandarua and Murang'a. Most of the affordable housing projects in the area are at 70% completion, with the allocation of units expected to be finalized within coming weeks. Workers who have benefited from the program dubbed it as an economic empowerment initiative, calling on the government to launch phase 2 to ensure sustainability of their livelihoods.
Currently, we have 2 projects which are complete. We have the Geshogo HP and we have the Kerugoya NHC. I request the general public, this week we are having a activation mobilization week for the general public to come, see what we've done, and for them to be taken through the registration and to understand what about the Boma Yangu. The general public to turn up in large numbers, come as many as you are. We have houses that would like you people to purchase and for you to have a better housing program.
Sasa ujenzi ikisha hapa, najua hata
Mwenyezi Mungu atatuonyesha mahali, unless serikali sasa ifungue phase 2, tutanufaika sana na tutafurahia sana. Lakini kama phase 2 bado itadelay, kutakuwa na delay, si hatuna otherwise tutaenda tu kutafuta makazi zingine huko.
We expect the local people to come to view the houses, because most of the people maybe have been asking how the project has been going, to be sure that affordable house is illegal.
We'll be keeping tabs on that tour that begins today. We have our reporter on ground, that is John Jacob Curia, on that particular bit. Now to sports, where the Kasarani Stadium will host test matches in the month of June, 2 months prior to the commencement of the postponed Africa Nations Championship, that is CHAN. The stadium is expected to host 2 to 3 test matches before being used as one of the venues for CHAN in August, alongside Nyayo National Stadium, both of which were inspected yesterday by Cabinet Secretaries Salim Vuria and Soipan Tuya.
With the kick-off of the postponed African Nation Championship less than 4 months away, the Kasarani Stadium is almost complete and will host a few test matches before the continental tournament for home-based players gets underway in August.
From June, we should be seeing more of test matches in this ground, just to make sure that everything is in place. So if we have another match in between, we will not do it in Nyayo, we will do it here, because I think what we have seen in the 2 matches, football is back in our country.
The stadium, together with the Nyayo National Stadium, both of which were inspected today by Cabinet Secretaries Salim Vuri and Soipan Tuya, will be the venues for CHAN 2024 and the Africa Cup of Nations 2027, events to be co-hosted by Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania.
We are ready for CHAN, we are ready for AFCON, and we've made a financial commitment to that effect, and therefore we are moving in that direction. I think right now we also need to be moving in to prepare the teams. You know, we now embark on preparing Harambee Stars because we are in a very good group in CHAN, which we need to take extra measures.
The completion of the venues in Kenya will end a period of uncertainty for Kenyan national teams, which have been playing their international matches in neighboring countries.
Our role as the Ministry of Defense is to offer a supervisory role to ensure timeliness in the completion of the projects, to ensure that the projects are up to standard, and of course to ensure that there is value for money that we get out of the projects.
The sports grounds are being built and renovated not only to host the 2 continental football tournaments, but also as a foundation for talents development.
We are investing, we are making sure that we give a facelift to our sports facilities, and for our enthusiasts, the sports enthusiasts, I think we need to be responsible, take part in ensuring that we also take care of these facilities once they are complete.
The tour of Kasarani and Nyayo follows many other tours of other venues across the country this year, including Talanta Stadium on Ngong Road, Bukungu Stadium in Kakamega, Water Stadium in Makueni, and Raila Odinga Stadium in Homa Bay.
That effectively puts a cap on matters in the headlines this morning. Remember, you're watching Good Morning Kenya. A candid conversation is about to commence with Victor as he looks at the state of the nation with a keen focus on what is happening in as far as the economy and matters of politics are concerned. So do keep it right here. Later in the evening, we're going to be interrogating the government communication strategy with none other than Deputy Government Spokesperson Gabriel Mutuma. The question is it information or propaganda? See you at 9. Have a great day ahead.
Pindi tunapowasha vifaa vyetu, tunapata fursa ya kutangamana na wasikilizaji wetu.
Karibu sana thĩinĩ wa tabarĩra ya Rwiga.
Tunapeperusha utangazaji uliobobea katika habari,
nĩ ũndũ wa macio na mangĩ maingĩ,
burudani,
ni hali ya tukoragwo tukĩigua nyĩmbo mwaki nyĩmbo hot,
na hamasisho la kiroho. Usiachwe nyuma. Jiunge nasi kwa safari ya kufana katika 99.5 FM. Shoro FM.
Get ready for the Shift Season 2. We are shifting from the studio to the grassroots, where policy meets reality. Your views meet government's voice.
This is not just about principal secretaries or any senior member of government. It is about you.
From agriculture to infrastructure, health to housing, MSMEs to the digital superhighway, a creative economy and beyond.
Get exclusive updates as Principal Secretaries share first-hand insights on the bottom-up economic transformation agenda rollout.
As we shift in transforming Kenya, we also shift from the studio to come to the field to check on what is going on, combine what we say with practically what is happening on the ground. Don't miss the program.
Every Tuesday on The Shift.
The Shift, Tuesday at 9 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
All right, and welcome back. Now it's time for us to get into the political segment. Today being the Tuesday, it's people and politics. And I want to talk about the issue of NGCDF and the government debacle. Remember, there is that report by the Auditor General that it should be taken back to the Ministry of Education. That is really what I want to talk about today. I don't know what is your opinion on this, because many people will say it should remain in the hands of politicians. At the same time, some would say it should be going back to the Ministry of Education. So let's talk about that and really understand. And my guest already in studio, Kevin Osido, came a bit early and already he has his cup of tea. Ahead of everyone.
So what does that mean, Victor? We have cups, everyone will get his and hers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So do I pass over this?
No.
Is there
I'll serve them.
Is there room for a second helping?
No, I will do this.
But can I add more to my...
Yes, I can add you. You want?
No, never mind. Is it half empty or half full?
Whichever way you look at it.
Should be half full.
Right.
Optimism.
You're right.
Niongeze tafadhali now.
I will add you there. There is that aspect. Kevin Osido is the executive director of the County Governors Watch.
Yes.
That debate to do with the NGCDF. What do you make of that?
Shukran.
What do you make of that, Kevin?
So in my view, really particularly when we talk about NGCDF,
yes,
in full is National Government Constituency Development Fund.
Right.
And so this therefore looks at probably development programs and projects within the constituencies. which somehow tends to, in my view, take away certain powers that are given to both the county governments and also to the national government ministries, departments, and agencies.
Yes.
Particularly looking at the roles of members of parliament, while also focusing on Schedule 4, on functions of both national and county governments. Of course, taking note of the fact that there are things that that NGCDF cannot do.
Yes.
And that it was envisioned that, for example, NGCDF would only deal with issues to have probably issues to do with school bursaries.
Yes.
Issues to do with security, and also issues that have got to do with improvement of infrastructure. So that, for example, you look at schools beyond the physical infrastructure, like putting fences and building classrooms. You look at bursaries. But then the question that begs, in my view, is where is the accountability mechanism?
That is the question being raised even by the Auditor General. Accountability.
Yeah.
Right. Wakili, what do you think of that statement?
When we actually shared most of the views that have been raised. However, I'd like to maybe also focus and focus on the role of the NGCDF, which addresses the question of poverty and bringing development to the constituencies.
Yes.
The big question that begs is, how are we ensuring that this fund is actually managed properly? The same question that is actually raised by the Auditor General.
Yes.
Yes.
The accountability aspect. But Wakili George, when you look at even how politicians are running with it, some would argue that it's working pretty fine for them. Certain constituencies are getting it right. But from the Auditor General report, many counties are not getting it right in terms of usage. They don't have letters of acknowledgement, letters of contracts, and what have you. So a lot of loopholes are in that. But then some would also argue that when it's taken back to the Ministry of Education, then there's that prudent use of that money. Would you support Ministry of Education, or it should remain in the hands of the politicians?
Well, I do think that the Constitution has partitioned roles. It's given the executive, which is basically notoriously looked at the presidency, its role. There is the legislative arm and also the judiciary. The most powerful of them all, I think, is the legislative arm, which then is a check of the executive against any excesses. When you do that, you don't expect the role of the legislature, which is basically to make laws. It's to oversight, and also, of course, representation, because they're elected to the House to represent. Those then cannot go beyond the boundaries set out by the Constitution, either expressly or impliedly, to get involved into matters of the actual appropriation and expenditure.
Yes.
That is left to administration, executive, or whatever institution that have been created. Now, the creation of such an institution was deliberate, and in fact, it's part of the journey upon which we've devolved, because we started with the constituency fund oriented towards, developing with participatory inclusion of the mass.
Yes.
And of course, to set out, even at the minimum level, infrastructure that is personalized to the people, to reach the people and serve the people. But then eventually, of course, we expanded the devolution towards what we have now, that are counties. Accountability is a constant threat to the gains, or will be gains, of devolution and eventual development in the country, on account of the fact that the fund that is devolved for use ordinarily is supposed to be for intended budgeted and therefore legislated issues. Because our budget is a legislation process too. So when you legislate to build, to develop, you've created a law that says that is how the appropriation of the funds that have been collected from the public in a fund, largely the consolidated fund, is supposed to be used. That's accountability. And it's a very it's a very simple issue. Unfortunately, human interference, human intervention is the concern. If there was no human intervention howsoever or whatsoever to use of funds, or you limit the contact of a human being to the funds that are collected as tax, then that would be the ideal. But we have to remain in contact with the monies that we collect for purpose of developing our country. And then we create institutions. In fact, sometimes many institutions, so that if this institution is misappropriating, then the other probably will not misappropriate.
Yes.
But again, the problem is the general national psyche is that if you don't have, you'll one day have it, wait until you get into government or institution of government. Then there's potential of you having money if you join government, because the institutions there will have money that have been donated by the people.
Yes.
At least that seems to be one orientation on how people get or glorified to get money into their pockets.
When we have money, this is a question, what you've said, it's not a problem having money. Once you're in government, there's availability of funds. But then the usage is in question here. When you look at the auditor's report, for example, Kevin, there is so much that is flying around, cannot be supported, cannot be found. There are no correspondences based on what is on the ground. But when you look at the usage, some of the contracts are actually, some of the projects are completed. But ukienda kwa ground vitu ni tofauti completely. You know?
And I think in addition to what Wakili Kithi is saying, is the blatant lack of the beneficiaries' involvement. So that, for example, when you have the board at the constituency level meeting, who are these people? Where do they come from? Which sectors do they represent? And for the sake of accountability, have they been taken through basic minimum processes of, for example, auditing a government project or just a development project?
Yes.
The planning process. For instance, under the Public Finance Management Act, what we see with county governments is that a basic requirement is, for example, a bill of quantities. So you want to put up a school. Do you have a BQ? Who has agreed on this BQ?
Yes.
When you are sourcing for contractors, the PFM Act, the Public Procurement Act requires that you, for example, advertise and give people time to apply. And even before you advertise, you agree on what you are looking for. So you want, for example, somebody to come and put up, you know, a water project or to dig a borehole, you know. What are the requirements? So when people ultimately submit their portfolios or profiles or their CVs, who agrees on who gets this job and what is this process? So if you look at ultimately how, therefore, the auditor, a general would say that there are projects in paper, but they are not on the ground. It means that the people who live around where we are saying these projects should have or ought to have been built were not aware, and that only a few people who probably were compromised, or by practice, what we see is that the campaign manager of the MP is the one who becomes, for example, the chair of the CDF board at the constituency level. Because now again, the role of the MP is questioned. Of course, some of them say that they are patrons, and so you ask yourself, what is the role of the patron at that level? What is their level of engagement? So it would be important that the members of this board, and largely the beneficiaries, the citizens, in counties and the procurement process, we also expect something called a service charter, which is a board that is blasted in an open place. So you say, we want to build a road from Missouri to Kombewa, and that this road will take this amount of money. The contractor is so and so. The contract of the contractor is so and so, and that it will begin on this date and end on this day. But you see, these things are not put out there because at the point of deciding which project we want to do and where we want to do it, the citizens are locked out.
Could this
they
be
are left
deliberate?
out of this. Of course it is. It is deliberate. And if you look at the figures that the Auditor General is mentioning, for example, that a school program in one of the constituencies, I think is Bomachoge, they can't raise 86 million. Now, Victor, look at 86 million and what it can do in a small area like Bomachoge, and what that would really mean in terms of transforming the lives of the people. So if we look at those kind of figures and what then the expectations of the citizens are against what people are going through, the poverty levels, the suffering of Kenyans, and you are an elected member who is saying, we have this amount of money, at the same time we have a county government that is also saying, we have a budget that is supposed to help us deal with some of these issues. Then you have national government, ministries, departments, and even agencies. And in many places, we have also seen the president during his tours making promises. And most of those promises are largely attached to resources, financial resources. So you ask yourself, where are we losing it and what must we be able to do? So in my view, it is an improper, injudicious use and management of resources, that looking at the kind of trajectory where we are coming from the court rulings, for example, in 2013, the amendments that were made in 2022 and 2023 on the NGCDF Act of 2013, then 2015, and the one that we are currently operating on, there are gaps that, in my view, need to be fixed, and that it is important, and that we listen to sane voices like those of the Controller of Budget, the Auditor General, and much more fundamentally what, for example, County Governance Watch, among other organizations, do, which is on citizen agency and accountability. The citizens must be taken through a capacity building process and a very deliberate mechanism to ensure that they're empowered to also raise very critical questions. So that, for example, Victor, what we do as an organization, in partnership with the Office of the Auditor General and that of the Controller of Budget and EACC. 2 weeks ago, for example, we were in Kisumu, and we had a meeting with over 120 people from citizens, including the County Assembly, and we were looking at the Controller of Budget's reports, the Auditor General's reports, and we were asking citizens, these things that are posted on our, about our county, do you believe them if they say this market has been built out of this amount of money? And people raised so many fundamental questions. And so from there, if you look at how citizens now begin to take, responsibility around accountability and what needs to be done, that, in my view, really needs to cement how, therefore, we engage with the development projects, and especially where monies are concerned.
Thank you. And when you listen to all this, when the intention and the purpose of having these funds was purely for all good intentions. But now, what is now coming out to be, it has turned out to be something else. 86 million shillings not accounted for. When you go to, again, is it called Lafay constituency, in that report again, 56 million shillings. The figures are just, huge, for lack of a better word. So the framers of the Constitution, who intended these funds to be there, had all the good intentions, but now the usage. Where's the missing link?
There's a point that my senior here in the profession mentioned, and there's always this idea, or rather a perception, that once you join government, you'll be able to make money. I think we have seen concerns raised surrounding the NGCDF, in the sense that the members, the parliamentarians, have actually also taken up the role of the contractors. So that also creates a huge gap, because some of the projects that are actually being funded and implemented by this fund are short-term, others are medium, others are long-term. So when you realize that there's a very big gap with the oversight, because from the moment these, which actually the legality surrounding the NGCDF is also in question, which we understand is currently in court. So when we introspect why it was created and for what purposes and the people that are involved, you will be able to see that there's a very huge gap, because the letter and the spirit for which it was created for is so different from what is happening. And we have so many examples. Essentially, it's more or less like most funds in government, where they are meant for a certain purpose, but they're used in a completely different way, which I think also calls us as Kenyans to introspect further as we put these people in office. Because what the independent office of the Auditor General is doing is showing the rot that is actually within this government or any other government. And when we actually go deeper into it, we're able to see it actually just comes to people not doing what they're supposed to do. Yeah, because if that fund goes into building schools, then we won't be having this kind of gap. If the oversight bodies that are supposed to look and check into how this fund is actually taken, used up, then we'll be able to see that it's what people should be doing that they are not doing. It's just pilfering money and enriching themselves. We cannot explain how 86 million cannot be traced.
It cannot be accounted for.
And it's not a single man job. It's several people who have come together, created a project, and funds have been allocated, and there is nothing on the ground.
Allow me to ask this question. What will be the biggest danger if it's reverted back to the Ministry of Education? Wakili, if it's, the case says, or the court says that, it should be under the Ministry of Education, what will be the biggest danger? Or
there's
none?
There's no danger at all. In fact, the fact that it's being opposed by those who are benefiting is what is dangerous to the public. I'll tell you this, it's been abused. I will give you examples of an experience I've handled, which I can't reveal beyond that statement, is that there is, and please allow me to be blatant. I know I'm on air.
Go ahead.
But there's bursary for sex. There's bursary that is being given, but women have to give up and yield into the demands of either those who are in office of the Member of Parliament or the Member of Parliament himself, abusing women in order to advance bursaries to them. Some of them we've handled ourselves. So why do we have it? And let me put it this way. There are two issues I'm going to raise. One is that the Auditor's General Office and the law surrounding the whole proportion of the auditor's work is incomplete. When you generate a piece of investigation, what is it for? When this DCI investigates, he prosecutes. When the Auditor General investigates, because that's an investigation and oversight role that the Auditor General then does, the Auditor General then submits that report to will-be authorities for action. They have no emotional attachment to the outcome of that investigation. Number two is then they forward the report to the people that could be accused within the report, meaning senators and members of parliament. Then they conspire so that that report is not debated and the outcome is shut on account of the interest that Parliament has. I have taken governors, members of Parliament, or whoever it is, some to court to defend them, some of course to appear before some of these committees. Those committees are not functional. And by the way, it's all, again, it's cyclic because it's a money-making forum where you're going to defend an accusatory auditor's report against you. So it's a forum where then money gets exchanged for purpose of a good outcome for whoever is going to probably progress the audit report through legislative or oversight role. Why is it that the DCI investigates and prosecutes, the Auditor General merely investigates, and there's no attachment of a progressive path upon which then somebody can prosecute? Number two, it's the procurement process. Procurement, there's a lot of interference with the human attachment to the process. At KRA, for instance, when you want to make a transaction now, I'm talking about now, and you submit a query or you submit your documents, it's not allocated to anyone by human interference. There's a round-robin way in which the job that you are asking is allocated on the other side. The task is allocated randomly. So it can't be that I have a brother working at KRA, then it lands on that brother, unless it's by sheer luck. Okay? So why can't we have a pool of will be legible service providers. Then it is you pay for the region that you want to work. For instance, I would want to work in Nairobi. You pay a certain fee depending on the economy of Nairobi, and in Nakuru and in Mombasa. When I want to build, I get allocated work randomly by a certain application of science. So that then the discomfort there will be that I don't have to pay anything to anyone to get the job. And therefore I'm beholden to the job and to the Kenyans, as opposed to, you give me work, I give you 10% of will be the amount. You want to pay me, you give me 10% of will be the payment. And eventually, therefore, I have to inflate the bill to take people's money because I have to pay some. And therefore, even at budgeting level, we have to keep on seeing that there's an amount that is added on the bill of quantities for purposes then inflated of procuring the job. You inflate, and it doesn't make sense. And the problem we have for all this is because there's a hand of man at every instance where money is involved. And when you want to legislate against it, of course, members of parliament will refuse.
Are the characters consistent?
Yes.
Inflation of figures.
Yes, it is everywhere.
BQs.
It is everywhere. Let me tell you, if you do not do it, you do not get the job. If you don't give the 10%, you do not get the job. Give me one contractor who doesn't do that. One. And gets the job consistently, and therefore his life is okay. He doesn't give the 10%. Who is that? When at payment and at procurement, who is that person? Who is it? There's nobody. The members of parliament, they says, they are the ones bringing desks to primary schools. They are the ones who are constructing classrooms, and they are the ones who inflate so that they have campaign money. They use this kitty for purpose of campaigns. And you see, they fight over it the other day in parliament. We saw how they are saying, you've developed your constituency or your sub-county this much, and yet we give this much. Where do you get the money? It means you steal from the kitty. And therefore, they know their limits, but also they legislate and they fight for the fund to continue to be a constant for the administration, because that's where otherwise they don't have money. Let me tell you, members of parliament don't have enough money. They don't. But they'll get enough money when they get into such activities and administrate on the procurement, and eventually they deliver the goods and inflate, and the money gets back to them.
Let's take a break. George Kithi, Warimu Gatacha, and Kevin Osido. Should the NGCDF or the bursaries be taken back to the constituency or to the Ministry of Education? Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us.
Ima na wendo mwingi tugikuthokia Embu County, the land of opportunities. Kambunene ya Ngemi FM mushi worata.
Twegagure na kamwetha kama vyumeto. Muroro kiande tukunye maire na murori tuthie thokore besa mevukore cha
manje makiyara uranje muri cietu cia thitima na ronje ruwathagana nyamu cia kithaka igitugemeria bururi wetu wa mbere Embu County. Ngemi FM tikuo muno tukianirira na mugambo munene. Eno ni Ngemi FM
musie wa urata.
Eno ni nyumba nene
musie wa urata.
Ngemi FM 103.5.
Get ready for the shift season 2. We are shifting from the studio to the grassroots, where policy meets reality. Your views meet government's voice.
This is not just about principal secretaries or any senior member of government. It is about you.
From agriculture to infrastructure, health to housing, MSMEs to the digital superhighway, a creative economy and beyond.
Get exclusive updates as Principal Secretary share first-hand insights on the bottom-up economic transformation agenda rollout.
As we shift in transforming Kenya, we also shift from the studio to come to the field to check on what is going on, combine what we say with practically what is happening on the ground. Don't miss the program.
Every Tuesday on The Shift.
The Shift, Tuesday at 9 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
All right, you as a citizen, you have benefited. Some of us benefit from help, a lot, help. But then now, even the issue of help has also been, there's also been an issue about it. And now, let me just take you back shortly. The High Court said that the NGCDF Act of 2015 violated the principle of separation of powers. The Act 2015 was amended in 2022 and 2023 in an apparent bid to beat a similar declaration of a 2013 Act that suffered a similar fate with unsuccessful appeals at the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. Okay? So it means that this case has been in court for a very long time. And Kevin, when you look at this, the legality of this fund is in question. Then why is it stuck where it is?
Victor, it has to be stuck there because of legislative processes. And when we began, we all agreed that part of the challenges that NGCDF is facing is the challenge of the doctrine of separation of powers, where you cannot be the person to make the law, and then you want to implement the law and also to adjudicate how that law is supposed to be applied.
Yes.
And that is hence the attempts by MPs, National Assembly, to amend the 2013 Act and the 2015 Act. Because, of course, the court will make certain pronouncements, and then you rush to fill in those gaps so that you are safe and secure. And as Wakili rightfully said, is politics of NGCDF and NGCDF in politics. So that we look at what must we do to delink the politicians from it. Let the National Assembly representatives make the law on how the CDF, through the NGCDF Act, is supposed to be implemented. Then you get out of that room and allow the actors to do their work. It also bolsters your power, particularly on accountability, so that when you receive petitions and letters of question from from the people that you represent, your voters, it gives you a lot of power and authority to want to ask them, why are these people saying they have not gotten bursaries? Yet we already have a budget which has been appropriated from National Assembly, and as an MP, I know how much there is in the constituency. As it is right now, members of Parliament, National Assembly cannot ask those questions because they are part and parcel of that play. And it's a play that, in my view, therefore, as the court rightfully says, really needs to be relooked at. What must we do? And in my view, engaging with some of these processes is get off the parliamentarians from this process. And it is a basic question by the Victor.
If you just expunge bursaries and you leave CDF?
It's not possible. Why is it not possible? Because of affirmative action. Bursaries form actually the bigger budget of NGCDF is education bursaries. If you go back to this constitution and you look at Schedule 4, so what kind of education is devolved and what is a national government? Hence the question around governors and MPs and all this, because at the county level, you're talking about early childhood education. So governors and their officers in the county budget,
and they also want that kitty, that money for them.
It's because of the politics. So at the county level is only for ECD. The mwananchi there who is benefiting from bursary will not know ni ya mheshimiwa yupi amenipa hii bursary. When the moment comes for politics, the MP stands and says, I have given you people bursaries. It is a war between the governor, the senator, the MCA, and the MPs. Because therefore, and if you look at the trend, many MPs want to be senators. Some senators want to be governors. And the anchor line they are using, the bio is, nimewapea nini? CDF. So when George talks about the sex in CDF or sex in NGCDF, whatever angle it is, that is just one bit of it. But there is also the story around accountability where when some of these people sit, they even ask for the list of voters. So which ward gave us the highest number of votes?
Yes.
Which constituency?
So
out of the 17. So that is how you agree on who gets the bursary. And hence the reason as to why the auditor is saying we cannot trace some of these monies. Because the moment the paperwork is there, chances that it will fall in somebody's hand who will get a lawyer friend of his or hers to go to court are very high. And then the other bit of it, of course, is the lack of accountability.
Yeah.
We have not seen very progressive prosecutions of members of National Assembly, particularly when it comes to financial
But because they'll say
dealings.
there's a board, they are not directly involved.
And that is why the matter is in court, and they keep amending the recommendations of the court, so that when you are supposed to be delinked from the board, you say, okay, I'm not the chairman as an MP, now I am the patron.
Okay, so when you listen to that, of course there is the legality aspect of it. Mwananchi is left hanging. Of the other question of public participation or awareness on where the money is coming from and the intended purpose. Do you think Mwananchi is also not getting the right information?
It is very possible. But I think now there is a lot of information that is in the public domain that maybe previously was just a reserve of a few people that held certain offices. It is very possible. However, I think what we are looking at is a question of conflict of interest because the parliamentarians or the people that are trying to handle this fund for their own benefits are actually in a position where they are going to benefit from, they are actually going to benefit from this fund. And as we have heard, there are very serious concerns that have been raised surrounding this fund. A fund that is legally that is legally owed, like it needs to go down to these people, that now the women have to do a certain thing for them to get it. You see a question of, for me to be able to give you bursaries, then you have to sing a certain tune to my politics. The problem is that we politicize a lot of issues. Unfortunately, we are even politicizing education, which is a very, very dangerous path to take, because in the event that we want to politicize everything in the country, we should at least leave 3 particular areas free of politics. That is first the education of our children, the health care, and security. Because the impact or the damage that is done cannot be reversed. So for me, I am very keen on also public participation. Public participation should not be an illusion. It is real, and it is 100% the prerogative of the government to involve the public so that they understand. Because it cannot be imagined, it has to be done.
Yes.
And when we are talking about public participation, other than just this, there are so many other areas where Kenyans are actually called to actively get involved. And it's not, the onus is not on them, the onus is on the government. So I feel like there's a very huge a very huge gap, but there is a very big need for us to separate the politicians and this fund. So maybe the best thing will be to have the Ministry of Education handle this fund. Yes, that way we'll have cured a lot of confusion. Yeah.
But by then, Victor, before Akili probably comes in, there's a question you raised around the role of the Ministry of Education. And in my view, I do not think that the ministry really needs to come in as a fund manager or a sole quote-unquote proprietor of this fund. Because if you look at what NGCDF is supposed to do, as we said earlier on, focusing on education issues, infrastructure, security, and now bursaries, NGCDF also cross-cuts in a number of other sectors. For example, health, security, which is not devolved. Of course, there are mechanisms to ensure that county governments also engage in the security aspect of it. So my question probably would be, what would be the role of the ministry? Because therefore, the ministry needs to be very strong in terms of cementing or developing a partnership with NGCDF, both the board at the national level and also at the constituency level, so that this question around accountability and where we are saying who is going to oversight over the oversighter, then the ministry, through its officials, can be given a place or a chair within that decision-making room. So that when we say we have a list of 74 applicants for bursary, by the time the last signature is made where the checks probably are written against the names, the Minister of Education officer needs to be involved. Now, that is somebody that we can say is PNP, and therefore the accountability levels are quite high. Because if you say, the questions that Madam Nancy are raising, where are the minutes? Where are the, then the regional director of education or the county director of education can say, this meeting I didn't attend or I was not invited. And this invitation must be in writing, so that the person, the chair of the NGCDF board at that level, writes a letter with a clear agenda. And he or she is saying, on this day, at this venue, we will be discussing, for example, criteria of allocation of CDF bursaries. We have received these applications. By the time now the documents are required, we go back to this oversighter and ask, how come there are no documentations, yet you must be or you should be part and parcel of this board?
That's a very salient point. But Wakili, when you come at that case of amalgamating all the funds, consolidating the funds, and that's a case which is still active actually, there's that call. Would it be effective?
Yes, it would, but not the ultimate. Let me ask a question, just by sheer reckless thought, because I'll call it reckless because it won't be very popular. Why do we need bursaries?
That's a disclaimer.
Why do we need bursaries? Because look, I'm the government.
Right.
I plan education. Then I set aside money to come and fund the education. Does it even make sense? That I'm the government, the cost of education is this much. So that
nationally?
Yeah, nationally. Then I remove my money, I move the money that we've been given as a government, as a corporate entity called government. And I've budgeted here, but I remove money to come and fund myself for the same education. Why does it even make sense? And then that money, between that journey of giving it to someone else to come back and fund me, it's get misappropriated. Why does it even happen? Look, if I'm the government, the cost of education is this much, so that there are students who won't be able to go to school if I don't give this money to Member of Parliament to come and give it to me again through the schools. Why can't I simply say, this is the cost of education, I'm not giving any bursaries, but the education will be free. Then there's nobody to bursary around.
Right, right.
So why are we creating a very complicated process where I'm here, I'm budgeting, right? I'm the government, I'm budgeting, and we are saying this. 9 billion or 19 billion will go to the bursary kit, whatever amount it is, right? That amount will still come back and fund the same education that I'm legislating on. I'm struggling to have every child be educated. Why can't they do everything? And say this, the bursary kitty, if put together in the implementation of the education funding process in the country, including every other expense, reduces the cost of education to this much. And therefore, education is free. By the way, if education is free, there won't be this rot. That won't be what we're discussing here, because it is free. Now, because it is not free, there's a commercial aspect to it, a very complicated commercial aspect. And therefore, we are funding all this because we are going on a round robin of sorts. Why would, assuming it was my own personal company, okay, and I want to fund a purchase of a tool of trade for my company, But then I take my money, give it to X to come and fund me again. I mean, does it even make sense? So what is then the rationale of having bursary today if we can directly fund it from the exchequer directly to where it's supposed to be? If we're supposed to pay school fees for students, these schools are paid to who? Is it a private entity or something? The government should fund education totally, and then it should be free. If we made it free, and let me tell you, we have enough resources to make it free because we've tried to make it free before.
You know, it is not new, Wakili, because I'm looking at the figures here and even some of the history. In March 2024, 28th of March 2024, that is last year, bursary billions wasted on academic flops, according to the Auditor General. Last year, 1 year down the line, we are still talking about the same. And on that report, there were recommendations, again, to reverse this money based on what you're saying, the consolidated fund, you know, to make education free of charge.
Yes.
Free for all.
Yeah.
But that's not been affected. I mean, 1 year down the line, the same report is like it was copy-paste and say it is the same report.
Let me add you, if we had a kitty to fund education other than the direct funding of education, then I tell my people, go to Makueni or whichever sub-county or county and benchmark. Why would money supposed to pay for bursaries be benchmarking on how to pay for bursaries? I mean, does it make sense? So the point is, by creating these layers of advancement of bursary to come and fund the same thing that we are budgeting to fund, it is an avenue to corrupt the system. It is. We do not need all this institution called bursary thing. In fact, we should just fund education and say it is free. Whatever price we pay to make education free, available for everyone, yes. I think that's the ultimate price we should pay. Then, and I would be happy if I was told, you know, you are paying these taxes because education is free. We would be agreeable to that because then the cost of education has been removed from us. And therefore, the rationale behind, but whatever it was then, does not subsist and is not consistent with whatever it was then. It is very fashionable today, and I've seen it many times, where members of parliament even call the constituencies and say, and I see it in the newspapers, advertise, and say, check bursary, check for bursary or bursary allocation day or something, and it's a ceremony. They cook, they feed them, and they give them 5,000.
Yes.
And in the process, somebody leaves his home, pays 1,000 to come and take a check of 5,000, meaning 4,000 is already unutilized, or the sheer loss of the whole process. I mean, cooking food for people to give them checks so that there's an optical value to it, it doesn't make sense, but it happens.
We love food, Wakili.
Victor, you know, we need the...
Yes. Even the same, on the same breath, because even in January, remember there was a case by the... that is the county, the governors, where they are also acting and say that they also want that bursary in the county level. And they argue that case on the social protection mandate in the constitution. So you have the constituencies issuing bursaries, the counties also issuing bursaries, but we're looking at the big boy here, the national government, which says also that, you know, this mandate belongs to the national government, duplication of roles.
Precisely, and I was just about to say that, and I think you probably read my mind, that we need a session to underscore when we talk about the education budget of the Republic of Kenya. What is it and what is it for? So in terms of the how much and where does the much go to? Because even as we talk about bursaries right now, we still have issues with the junior secondary schools, where we have kids in school, some of them are actually learning under trees, against budgets of the government through the Ministry of Education on promises to be able to put classrooms and even to bolster, or rather to provide equipment for laboratories. Now, it is important that we balance this pendulum, because otherwise we will be having very many people in schools in terms of the quantity. So bursaries are churning people to go to school, but the quality in terms of what they are benefiting or getting, so you have a class of 140. I visited a school in one of these public schools that has 140. learners. So you ask yourself, really, is it even, does it make sense? And this is largely because of, again, going back to politicization of the bursaries. So if we can be able to agree that education is free, so what bit of this education is free? Because in this country, we still have schools that are actually cooking for learners, so they are not going to school. And part of the reason why even the parents will tell you, mtoto wangu anaenda kwa hiyo shule sababu ya chakula. Sasa akishaenda asubuhi apewe ile uji ya saa 4, angoje tena apewe lunch at home, that budget is taken away from them, which is largely the driver of most of these families and the bursaries. So, and we need to also underscore that indeed, the history of bursaries, beyond the politicization of the fund itself, has helped many families. Children have gone out there because of bursaries. People would never have even stepped into school. If we can be able to take away the politicians from bursaries and adhere to the court rulings and the recommendations by these courts.
For the sake of Mwananchi, who is not privy to the court ruling,
yes,
what are the recommendations?
So that, for example, one, we are saying that the separation of powers aspect, which is one of the discussions that we are also talking about here, let the lawmaker make laws and support the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act to be as it's supposed to be, so that even members of the NGCDF board at the constituency level is not meant for the MP to be the one nominating and vetting and writing a letter to appoint them. Hata mimi nimepata simu mbili just this year to be appointed
Kevin,
into a board, and I ask myself...
The Ministry of Education has the data of all students, from the one who was admitted in January to the one who is exiting this year.
Yes.
Where does a member of parliament come in between a student and the Ministry of Education to offer me a bursary, and yet the Ministry of Education has my data from kindergarten to when I'm done with my master's and PhD and everything else?
The member of parliament should not at any given point come in. The only responsibility should be at the appropriation, the budget making process at the National Assembly. Waziri wa elimu anasoma bajeti,
chukua hiyo.
We have appropriated this, then they go and sit. Even if they want to go to the education committee, wakae pale wajiulize, is this money enough to take this number of the data you are talking about against a number of schools that we are talking about? That should be the only role of the MP. So that, and hence the reason I was proposing earlier on, that as part of the recommendations to bring in the ministry, the Ministry of Education has personnel across this country, both at national and county level. You go to those places and unaambiwa kuna regional director of education who knows all his or her staff. There is county education officer. Let them be effectively involved with zero interference by the MP. Even the intimidation aspects, where you are given a call by an MP, unaulizwa, I thought my APA gave you a list. What has happened to 17 of those who are in that
Let me ask quickly, were you a beneficiary of help?
Yes, I was.
Yes,
I was.
It was a big issue, though. It was a big issue, though. But then when you look at the whole scenario, what would be your recommendation? The courts have given the pronouncement on it. There are so many acts, there are so many amendments here and there. But what would be the Mwananchi kind of solution to this?
At the very basic level, the Mwananchi needs to understand just how free is education, because you find that there are people that are still paying, I think, tuition. There is the cost that goes to the textbooks, which is a very hefty cost.
There's something called motivation fee or something.
You see, very funny fees that have been sneaked into the final amount. So how free is this education? These are some of the questions that the common Mwananchi, Wanjiko, Mora, and Anyango should ask the government during public participation. Just how free is this education? What is the government going to do that actually causes it to be called free? When they say it's free and it's compulsory, which is free and which is not compulsory? Very basic questions for the Kenyans to get answered. Then, of course, is to completely delink the members of parliament, the politicians from this fund, because that is the biggest problem that we have. Just making sure that Theirs is to make laws, amend them, appropriate this amount for the budgeting, but beyond that, they will not go and have meetings with contractors where we will be agreeing on this 10%, will come back to me, will inflate it this much, this is how we are going to cook up the BQ. You know, there should be qualified persons who now, and there is a very good process of procurement of these services and contractors and all that. Yeah. So I think if people were to do what they are supposed to do, it will be a very easy thing for us to actually benefit from it. Like Wakili said, if, for instance, education is free.
How free is it?
How free is it?
Okay. When you look at the DNA, Kithi, again, there's somebody who sent a message here. What the constitutional lawyer is saying is absolutely true. Masanga Athumani from Msamvian, is that Msamvian?
Must be Msambweni.
Kwale County tuned in.
Yep.
This Msambweni or something. So that message was sent around 20 minutes ago. But then now, what would be your, again, your kind of mwananchi solution to it? The controller budget most probably will come up with another audit report. If it's not acted upon, whatever the audit report has been, it's been coming yearly, year out, year in, year out. Most probably there will be another report again. But what would be your mwananchi, not from the legal aspect, your own understanding, to solve this issue?
Kibaki was very successful in his education policy. Two things: fund education completely. That there is a reserve for the parental responsibilities. So make education absolutely free, so that the rich and the poor have the same platform upon which to learn and progress as children, same opportunities. Because there's an equal opportunity for education has a reserve of a price to it. There are those that will meet the price and those that will not meet the price. When you do that, then give it a compellable duty for the actors on an individual child to take the child to school. The parent must take the child to school. If you don't, because it is free, then your reserve duty, and you fail in your reserve duty to take the child to school, to an institution, you shall be a criminal.
Yeah.
And you'll be punished for it.
Because it is free.
Yes, because it is free.
Yeah.
And number three, the Auditor General's report are complicated to the mwananchi. They are not broken into the thematic language. The language that then, that socializes the mwananchi to be able to digest and interpret the Auditor General's report. It is in a very complicated form at its reporting, yet it is meant to audit the money that the mwananchi has paid as taxes and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
The mwananchi should be told that there's a classroom here. It was not built. It's as simple as that, and yet the money that was given to the kit or to a member of parliament has disappeared. And then there is even an audit of the mwananchi on the member of parliament closer to the correct or the truth when the mwananchi is deciding to vote or not to vote again for that member of parliament. What is happening is, if the auditor's report is generated, and if you have money, and you can talk to the media, and you can talk to whoever it is and pay off, so that it is not in the limelight, then you kill it. That's what governors are doing. That's what members of parliament are doing. And then the mwananchi won't know anything. How then do you participate as a mwananchi to be told, what do you want here? I want you to build a classroom. And then the member of parliament goes to allocate money for that classroom. And then when the classroom is not built, at least at the end of the financial year, I'm not told what happens to that classroom.
Yes.
And that disappears, and we go to another financial cycle.
This is a lighter note to all of you. What if that money is taken away from the legislators? What's the worst that can happen?
But it should.
Nothing.
It ought to be, because remember, I will tell you, it is unconstitutional. It is unconstitutional to allocate money to members of parliament, for members of parliament to utilize the money administratively, and then they come back to say, how has this money used?
Yes.
For instance, for example, parliament, I have used the money, supplied desks, and eaten part of it. Then there's a question in parliament, I must say this, how this money was used in the oversight role. I mean, that's impossible.
So what's the worst that could happen if it's taken away from them?
They become poor.
Oh, wait.
Nothing will happen. Nobody will die.
They get broke. I think we were told that members of parliament don't have money. So I think if you remove that kitty, well, it's that money that they use.
You should, and I'm saying it here on air, you should see the payslip of parliament. It is true. They take the loans, the mortgage, and the car loan. It's done. I tell you, that's why they fight to increase them. Right now, they propose to increase their salaries, haven't they?
Right.
Haven't they? It's because they don't have the money.
Silently, though. yes,
They have.
Yeah, so I think that the best thing that can happen to the future of NGCDF, especially speaking on issues to do with schools, because the fund is supposed to take care of so many other projects, but in terms of education, will be to completely depoliticize, if there's such a word, the entire process. Because people are looking at the fund as a way of enriching themselves at the expense of a student. And already, this is a country that is burdened with money that is owed.
Yeah.
We are burdened with money that we need to pay. The county governments have not even paid their workers. Then there are so many things to be done with this money, but they will choose to keep that very juicy and very nice kitty for their use, so that they can also mobilize voters here and there. I give you bursaries, I have done this and that and the other to you. And when you see how much money they are giving, it's 5,000 shillings. I mean,
it's so sad. I mean, you're making it look so...
It is very sad.
And you see, Victor, that's why I was saying that we probably, depending on your planning, need another opportunity to deal with this issue of making education free.
Yes.
Because you have public, private, you also have the 5,000 as bursary, then you have ECD or county government, national government involvement. So there is a lot of confusion in terms of who is supposed to do what, who is usurping whose powers, who is not getting which money. And then we go now deeper into looking at the process of agreeing. Because I've sat in some committees, not as a committee member, but just as an observer, and I've seen how some very deliberately minded good citizens who are in the education bursary committees of these county governments really desire that people get the money and that money does what it is supposed to do.
Yeah.
So even as we talk about the Auditor General's and the Controller of Budgets reports, on the negative ends, we also need to probably pronounce and profile the positive. And sometimes I ask myself, the other day I saw the Auditor General awarded Mheshimiwa Babu Owino, unless it was misquoted or it was wrongly reported. But what is it that Babu is doing, for example, with his constituents, is it Embakasi West, that gets it to a level where East or West, where he is even awarded by the Auditor General? I see him a lot of times having the rallies that Wakili is talking about, and he's just saying, you know, mwaka huu so and so, and he's calling people by their names, and people wanashangilia, and it is a big public rally.
Yeah.
What is it that some MPs are doing that others are not doing, even as we continue to, because this war of bursaries is not going to end now. Even as we talk about court rulings, we talk about functions by the Constitution, it is the same thing we are facing with the MCAs and Ward Development Fund. It's a war that has been there since 2014. It is not starting now, it is not ending now. But even as we continue to fight, what are the best practices that we can be able to learn? What is the government's commitment
the good thing
to
is,
be able to provide?
We've spoken our mind, we've given our opinion, we've given our suggestion, and I believe somebody is going to listen to this. Thank you so much. I want to break some rule today. Wakili, what's on the front page of the Standard? The way we do it, just raise it up on the front page. Read it.
The General's last wish.
All right. That's General Ogola, right?
Yes, they talk about his last wish, his last journey, and how he left this world, and also he has a will that has been published. Some of the issues that he put in.
That's on the front page. The General's last wish. You can check that's on the front page of the Standard. On the front page of the Star newspaper, dilemma for Kalonzo as Uhuru backs Matiang'i's bid. That's on the front page of the Star newspaper. And finally, why is Kenya still in Haiti? Why is Kenya still in Haiti? Those are the front page of our local dailies. You can grab your favorite copy and read in details for yourself. Wakili George Kethi, an advocate of the High Court. Warimu Gatachi is also an advocate of the High Court, and Kevin Osido, who is the Executive Director, County Governors Watch. We've talked about education today. Hatujaongea siasa. Education is the equalizer. True or false?
Na siasa education.
That's just... Asante sana for watching. I'm Victor. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with our music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Wellness is important in our daily lives, so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have by regular checkup. People don't know they have hypertension. People don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers.
Stay well and strive to make every day a healthy day.
The young generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture.
Movies, gossip and trends, sports, drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
To keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe. Y254. Imagine.
Mbugwa pamoja na Pambio worship kama si wewe. Kwa hivyo saizi naambiwa kwamba na le producer Ben Nguye ananiambia kwamba sinti tuko tayari.
Born in 1956, Cleopa Kilonzo Mailu graduated from the University of Nairobi and earned a master's degree in medical genetics from the University of Glasgow in Scotland. He started his career as an intern at the Kenyatta National Hospital and was the founding director of its Department of Medical Genetics in 1989. Mailu had also worked in several high-level jobs both at home and internationally. Just before his appointment to cabinet, he had worked for the Nairobi Hospital for 12 years, and his last posting being the hospital CEO. President Uhuru Kenyatta appointed Mailu the Health Cabinet Secretary in December 2015, taking over from James Macharia, who had just...
Labda nikianza na ndugu Opondo, mswada wa fedha ujitokeza vipi na kwa namna gani kabla bajeti kuanza kutungwa?
Asante sana mtangazaji. Mswada wa fedha wana stages 6.
Ndio.
The 6 stages naitwa 1. Moja inakuwa preparation of budget review and outlook paper. Kwa Kiswahili inaitwa kuandaa karatasi ya mapitio ya bajeti. Na mwelekeo wa uchumi inaitwa kwa Kizungu is called BROP. Budget review and preparation outlook paper.
Ndio.
Yes. Alafu second phase, ukishatengeneza hiyo inaenda kitu inaitwa public participation. Public participation unapeleka hiyo nini kwa wananchi. Wanapatiana input zao. Wanapatia kama ni projects gani wanataka. Alafu serikali pia pendekeza nini sources ya revenue ya kukadiria those expenses. Ya kugharamia hizo expenses. Yes. Alafu ya tatu, sasa draft kitu inaitwa budget policy paper. Hiyo drafting ya budget policy paper, which is called BPS kwa Kizungu. Alafu kutoka hapo inaenda kwa cabinet. Kwa cabinet lazima ipitishwe. Cabinet itajadiliana juu ya hiyo paper, alafu wakubaliane. Na pia washapata public participation, saa ingine wanapata kwa mashinani huko. Waone wananchi wanasema nini about hiyo paper imetengenezwa. Yes. Ikitoka hapo inaenda ya 5, parliamentary review. Ikitoka sasa hapo inaenda kwa parliamentary review. Of course watakuwa pia wamekuwa involved kwa public participation.
Naomba kidogo karibie kinasa sauti, mikrofoni.
Anasema ikienda mashinani, ukienda parliament, wataenda kudiscuss pia, wanaenda kukadiriana, waone kama iko sawa ama nini. Kwa pia wameshajadiliana na wananchi. Waone kama wananchi wanakubaliana na mswada hapana. Kama kuna kitu lenye swala nyeti kwa hilo bajeti au hiyo budget outlook paper, wanaweza rekebisha hapo. Alafu ya mwisho ni kitu inaitwa implementation of oversight. Hapo sasa kisha kubaliana ndio inaenda sasa implementation phase. Yes.
Na mtazamaji, umesikia kwamba utayarishaji wa bajeti una ngazi 6 na ameweza kuzielezea vizuri sana hapa, na ngazi ya mwisho amesema hapa sasa kila kitu kiko chonjo, ni ile tu utekelezwaji. Na hivi karibuni tumejiunga naye vile vile pia Daktari Joseph Rotich ambaye yuko ndani ya studio, ambaye ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya uongozi na vile vile pia ni mwanauchumi. Lakini kabla kwenda kwake, nirudi kwake dadangu hapa ndani ya kipindi, na yeye ni msikilizaji upande wake Bi Trophy Kiprono, ambaye ni expert katika masuala ya communication. Je, mwananchi anafaa kujumuishwa vipi? Mawasiliano yanafaa yawe vipi? Ajue na yeye ni nini kinachoendelea.
Ni muhimu sana mwananchi wa kawaida aweze kuhusishwa kwa mambo ya mawasiliano, kwa sababu bila mawasiliano haiwezekani kwa mtu kuelewa zile ambayo wanaongelea. So serikali inafaa kuipea kipaumbele mambo ya mawasiliano, ili watu waweze kuelewa hii mswada ni nini, inahusu nini, iko na malengo zipi. Yani lazima watu waweze kuelezwa ili waweze kufahamu vizuri.
Na njia gani ambazo zinafaa kutumika? Kwa sababu utakuta kwamba mara nyingi wananchi ulia kwamba serikali haikuwasiliana nao katika swala hili muhimu.
Kutumia mfano, ningependa kutumia mfano ya hii bima ya serikali kuu ya SHA. Ukienda kule mashinani, unasikia mwingine anasema sha, mwingine anasema shif, mwingine anasema shu, hata hatuelewi kabisa ni nini wanaongelea. Sasa hapo inaonyesha kwamba kuna shida na mawasiliano. Kwa hii mambo ya mswada ambao unataka kupitishwa bungeni kuhusu fedha, ni muhimu serikali iweze kuongea na kuelezea wananchi kwa hakika ni nini inahusika katika hii mswada. Kuna malengo gani? Waweze kui break down information ikuwe easy ku understand kwa kila mtu.
Na nikirudi kwako Daktari Rotich, ambao vile vile pia umejiunga nasi katika muda usio mrefu, kuna wale wanauliza kuna yale ambayo tunaita makadirio ya bajeti ambayo huwa yanawasilishwa kwa wakati mmoja na mswada wa fedha. Hebu tufungue masikio kidogo kuhusu hapa.
Kuangalia mambo ya bajeti, unajua bajeti ni kitu ambacho tunaita process.
Ndiyo.
Kwa sababu vile madama amesema, lazima sihusishwe wananchi kutoka mashinani. Hii ni kitu ambacho wananchi wenyewe watachangia. Lazima walipe kama ushuru. So ile pesa zote ambazo ile karama yote ambayo serikali sasa watakuwa nazo kama bajeti ni pesa za wananchi. Hakuna pesa za serikali. So ndipo sababu tunasema yule mtu mwenye kulipa hahusishwe kutoka mwanzo mpaka mwisho, mpaka aelewe. Kuna mambo yenye ilifanyika wakati ule wa budget ile ya kwanza. Ulipata kama jensis walienda barabara kujieleza kusema sisi hatutaki hii, kwa sababu wengi wao hawakuhusishwa, Wakenya wote hawakuhusishwa ama hawakuelewa ni nini ilikuwa ikiendelea kwa serikali. Lazima tuelewe ya kwamba chochote ambacho kinafanyika kwa serikali sinakaramiwa na wananchi wenyewe. Lazima waambiwe hii pesa zenu ambazo tunasanya kama ushuru itaenda wapi na wapi na wapi. Na hipo sasa italeta kitu ambayo inaitwa the budget estimate, ambao sisi zote wa Kenya ambao tutachangia. Na huwa tunasema lazima tujifunze, tutoe taxes ama ushuru, alafu tujitegemee kama wananchi wa Kenya. So tukisema budget estimate ni ile sasa kila kitu zimejumuishwa kwa ile malengo ambayo serikali wanataka kufanya kwa hiyo mwaka ama mula ambao inaenda. So hiyo lazima ikuwe estimate ambayo ni real, kwa sababu itakuwa ikikaramia zile vitu zote ambazo wananchi wanasitarajia. Unakumbuka ya kwamba wakati wa campaign ama wakati wa viongozi wanaomba kura, huwa wanawaahidi wananchi tutakuja fanya hii na hii. So that one now has to be crystallized. Lazima iletwe kama kitu kimoja. Tuseme kama sasa mambo ya education tutafanya kiasi gani, ama mambo ya barabara tutafanya kiasi gani. Hasa inji hii yetu hii vile tunaongea, tuko na deni chungu nzima. Tunasema 70% ya pesa zetu ambazo tunazisanya kama ushuru zinaenda kwa deni. So ni ngapi sitabaki kwa hizi mambo zote? Utaangalia ya kwamba 2023-2024 tulikuwa na budget ambayo estimate ambayo ilikuwa 3.75 trillion shillings. 3.75 trillion shillings. And then 2024-2025 tukawa na 4 trillion. Saa hii tunakaramia kuangalia kitu kama 4.2 trillion shillings. Hii ni estimate ambayo unaona inaenda ikiendelewa ama ikienda juu. Na ukilinganisha ile hali ya uchumi vile tuko, hali ya uchumi ni mbaya. Gharama ya maisha imeenda juu, na bado tunasihitaji pesa kutoka wananchi. Na wacha ni kukuambia kama bei za vitu zote ambazo tunazikaramia, tunazipitia kwa hii nchi, ni gharama zake on top iko na ushuru ya nchi. So jenye kinafanya hata bei ziende juu ni gharama ama 16 taxes ambao wananchi wanalipa. So ndipo unasikia wananchi wanalia, wanasema ile pesa ambayo serikali walituahidi watatuwekea mifuko hasijaingia bado mpaka wa leo. So ni serikali lazima ieleze wananchi vile hatujafanya hii ni kwa sababu gani, vile tumefanya hii ni kwa sababu gani, ili wananchi waelewe ni nini ama ni wapi ama ni yapi tumefanywa na serikali.
Shikilia hapo Daktari Rotich. Bila shaka mtazamaji, ni endapo unajiunga nasi kwa sasa, hadi matangazo ya moja kwa moja, kipindi hewani ni Zinga kupitia KBC Channel 1 TV na KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya, na ndani ya studio niko nao wachanganuzi wa masuala ya fedha na vile vile pia masuala ya kiuchumi, tukiangazia matayarisho ya bajeti ama matumizi ya bajeti ya serikali ya mwaka 2025-2026 ambayo yanatarajiwa baadaye kama miezi miwili tu inayokuja. Nikirudi kwako Bwana CPA Opondo, hii ni budget policy statement ya 3 chini ya serikali ya Kenya Kwanza. Je, kuna chochote cha kujivunia katika budget policy statements za awali zilizopita?
Asante sana mtangazaji. Nataka kusema kwamba wacha niseme tu kitu.
Hakuna shida, hakuna shida.
Naongea kama accountant.
Hakuna shida, hakuna shida.
So mwananchi anaweza sema nataka hivi. Na asukume serikali. Na akisukuma serikali lazima inamaanisha either hiyo budget wa review wa adjust kidogo, si ndio? Sasa ukiadjust ile kitu pengine nasema ni pengine public participation ama kuinvolve hawa wananchi ina lack. Na ikiwezekana wakuwe involved so that this information of flow kwao wapate ukweli wa maneno. One thing I can say here, when Gen Zs walikuja wakaleta vurugu, of course they were justified in a way, but now that had very grave implication kwa economy ya Kenya. Yes.
Okay, labda kwa yule ambaye anatusikiliza ama anatutizama kwa sasa, unaweza Bwana CPO Pondo katufafanulia kati ya mswada wa kifedha na bajeti?
Mswada wa kifedha na bajeti. So bajeti ni ile inaonyesha ni nini unataka kununua, nini unataka kufanya na pesa utatoa wapi. Expenditure and income. Una pesa ngapi ama unatarajia kupata pesa ngapi? Na hii pesa inatoka kwa ushuru wetu. 1, yenye KRA itafanya. 2, kama kuna grant yenye serikali imepata na inakuwa factored kama commitment ya kwa hiyo budget. Then 3, utakuwa hii pesa ni pesa ngapi na gani unataka kukopa. Kama hujapata pesa ya kutosha, ingine maanisha lazima utakopa. Na kama kukopa unataka kukopa ingine kutoka wapi? Locally, domestic, ama unataka kukopa nje. So hiyo ni kitu muhimu wananchi ajue. Alafu ikuja saa hiyo inaitwa finance bill.
Yes, mswada wa kifedha.
Hiyo inaonyesha revenue raising measures yenye serikali imesema wata raise pesa kwa njia fulani. But sasa sisi kama ISPAC huwa tunakuja tunapatiana advisory because kwa sheria ISPAC is the statutory body iko mandated kufanya nini? Kudevelop na kuregulate accounting profession, and as such even the CS National Treasury wangu wanapata advice kutoka kwa ISPAC. So ISPAC tulipatiana contribution yetu. Lakini pia wanaweza chukua, saa ingine wanakataa. Yes. Saa ingine wanaweza chukua na wakatae. Wakikataa, tumefanya kazi yetu, si ndio? Of course naendelea kulobby. But ikiumana tuseme ikikuwa ngumu, of course bado tunaendelea kusema hivi, fanya hivi. But sasa nashukuru kitu kimoja.
Ndio.
Moja ninashukuru, kwa miaka mingi tumekuwa na economists wana head National Treasury. Sasa ninafurahia, sasa tuna accountant. School of Thought ya accountant na economist ni tofauti. So saa hii unaweza sema budget yenye iko saa hii kuna mazuri yenye yameonekana, ingawa saa ingine watu wengine hawezi ona, but sisi kama accountants tunaona inflation imeenda chini. Na inflation ikienda chini inamaanisha kuna economy ina grow. Mtu hawezi ona saa ingine, lakini kesho itafanya vizuri. Yes, inflation ikienda chini inamaanisha kuna area fulani ambayo tunapata ma benefits. Alafu kwa hizo budget, swali lako lenye ulisema budget za kitambo na za saa hii, ndio? So nikicompare last year na saa hii, wameongeza pesa mingi kwa agriculture. Na stimulate agriculture na maanisha economic stimulation takuwa. Unaona infrastructure wameweka focus. Ukiweka infrastructure funding mingi na maanisha, I'm trying to use a layman's language because when you wanasikiliza si wote accountants, ndio? Na mwananchi ndio nataka asikie, ndio?
Ni kweli.
So hiyo infrastructure ukiweka more resources hapo, inamaanisha roads itakuwa improved. Ikiwa improved, access to markets itakuwa improved. Ingine agriculture, hiyo nimesema wakiongeza resources hapa ambayo wameongeza kulingana na ile hayo makadirio yenye meona, inamaanisha wakulima wataweza kupata inputs at lower price. Na wakipata inputs at lower price, it means economy ita perform vizuri kwa sababu will have so much for local consumption na for export. Ingine wameweka focus kwa education. Ujinga ni kitu kibaya sana. Unajua ujinga ni kitu serious. Usipadress ujinga, my friend, utakuwa na shida kubwa sana. So wameweka resources to ensure that most of us are enlightened. Yes.
Shikilia hapo hapo. CPO Pondo amesema kwamba kulingana na makadirio haya, mtazamaji, ni kwamba serikali imepatia kipaumbele swala zima la miundo msingi, vile vile pia swala zima la kilimo. Kumbuka uti wa mgongo taifa la Kenya ni kilimo, na vile vile pia imetudokezea tu kwamba katika haya makadirio pia serikali imepeana kipaumbele rasilimali katika swala zima la elimu, akisema kwamba ujinga ni kitu kingine kijinga sana. Kwa hiyo lazima tuondoe. Nirudi kwako Bi Trophy Kiprono. Je, unahisi kwamba serikali inafaa kutumia mbinu gani ili kuwasilisha kwa wananchi pendekezo la kuongeza mapato ya ushuru ama ya masuala ya budgeti ama ya finance bill? Wanafaa watumie channels gani ndio mwananchi afeel mimi nimeshirikishwa?
Naamini kwamba serikali inafaa kupitia watu kama village elders iweze kuja mpaka ifike kule chini mashinani. Na kwa kuzungumzia mambo ya ushuru, kusema tu ukweli, wananchi hawana shida kulipa ushuru. Shida inatokezea kwa uwajibikaji, accountability. Kwamba pesa ambazo, ushuru ambayo ilichukuliwa mwaka jana ilifanywa nini na nini na nini, ili waweze kutoa ushuru kwa kutaka. Kwa sababu shida hapa, na nimesikia Bwana Opondo akisema watu hawajui, ukweli ni kwamba watu wanataka accountability, wajibikaji, wanataka kuona pesa zao zinafanya nini. Kwa sababu tukiangalia mambo ya miundombinu, tukiangalia mambo ya afya, kilimo, kuna tofauti gani kutoka mwaka jana na mwaka leo na huu mwaka sasa. Sasa tukisema kwa mambo ya serikali, iweze kukuja hadi grassroots levels, iweze kueleza kwa watu tunaita kwa kizungu pedestrian diction, iweze kuelezea yule mtu kwamba hii ushuru tunachukua kwa sababu ya kitu 1, 2, 3, tunafanyia hivi na hivi. Mwaka jana tulifanya hivi, mwaka unaokuja tunafanya hivi. Yes.
Ikirudi kwako Daktari David Rotich ambaye Daktari Joseph Rotich ambaye vile vile pia ni mwanauchumi na mchanganuzi wa masuala ya uongozi. Je, labda unatarajia effect gani wakati ambapo mapato yatakusanywa na ukuaji wa uchumi? Je, kuna mikakati imewekwa ili kuongeza mapato bila kuzuia ukuaji wa uchumi, tukizingatia serikali ya kitaifa ya ushuru na mkakati wa mapato ya mwaka uliopita wa 2024-2025?
Ya, tukiongea mambo ya usanyaji wa ushuru, inakusia biashara ya wananchi, inakusia mambo yote ambayo inafanywa kwa kila siku. Na wakati tunatarajia sasa kusanya hizi ushuru, tunatarajia kusanya hii ushuru kutoka watu ambao wamekuwa ustawi kiuchumi ama ni watu maskini. Kama ni agriculture, tuna tax ama tunaendea watu ambao are they established. So tukiona ya kwamba wananchi wastahii, ndugu yangu, wako chini sana katika hali ya uchumi, sio eti wanajitakia, na ni kwa sababu ile policies ambazo ziliwekwa zamani hazijaonekana wakati huu. Kwa sababu ukiangalia sasa biashara ndogo mengi zimefungwa, haziendelei, na zenye wanaziendeleza biashara zao ni iko chini, na hiyo ni mahali penye serikali bado inatarajia kupata hii ushuru. Na ningependa serikali kwa hii bajeti ambayo wanafanya saa hii wahusike kivilivyo kwa kujua wananchi wanapitia kiasi gani kwa mambo ya ile uchungu ambao wanapitia kwa hali ya uchumi katika nchi hii yetu. Chenye tumesuluhisha ambao serikali tunaona saa hii yale policies ambao waliweka imeonyesha dalili mzuri ni mambo ya agriculture. Unaona ya kwamba vile serikali walileta mambo ya fertilizers, farm inputs, waliweka bei zao zimeenda chini. Kwa mambo ya chakula zinapatikana kwa urahisi, sio kama wakati ule mwingine. Na ni mahali penye ninaona mimi serikali imefanya vizuri. Lakini mambo ya industrialization, mahali penye tunaweza unda mambo ya employment opportunities, bado tuko duni. Kuna mambo mengi ambayo serikali yameongea, mambo ya creation of employment opportunities ambao bado sijaonekana bado. So ni hapo ni mahali budget hii yetu hii lazima iangazie tutaiunda ama tutafanya namna gani to create ama tuiunde mambo mengi ya kuachiri wa watoto wetu. Tuko na watoto karibu milioni 7 juu yake ambao bado wako nje huko, hawana ajira. Tuko na umaskini wa hii nchi, 21 million people are still living below the poverty line. So bado watu wetu wengi bado wako maskini. Tutafanya nini? Lengo la serikali kwa hii bajeti yetu wanaangazia wapi ili mambo ya uchumi ya watu wetu iende juu. So ngawaje kuna mambo mengi ambayo nimesikia madam akisema mambo ya kudhibiti mambo ya healthcare, ambao serikali sasa inaonekana wako na mwelekeo poa, kwa sababu mambo ya SHA, mambo ya SHI ngawaje haijakuwa established. Kuna maono hii sheria itasaidia kwingi sana, kwa sababu tusipoangalia mambo ya sheria, mambo ya health ya watu wetu wa Kenya, hatutaendelea kimaendeleo. Sasa na mambo cost of living ambao imeingia kupitia mambo ya uchumi ambao hajaendelea vizuri, ime also adhiri mambo ya health ya watu wetu wa Kenya. So lazima waangazie kama wakimaliza hii maneno ya SHA SHIF waiunde vizuri vile tunatarajia. Naamini hii nchi bado itaendelea. Na mimi maneno ya ushuru ambao tunalipa na ushuru mingi itaenda kwa deni. Hata kuna watu wengi wameongea juu ya mambo vile tunaweza lipa hizi deni tukiwa tunaendelea tukiendelea kimaendeleo yetu, kwa sababu tukiwa tunalipa pesa zetu, karama kubwa inaenda kwa deni. So ile karama ile pesa kidogo ambazo zitakuwa zimebaki tutaweka hizo maendeleo ambao bado tuko na tunaona kuna ugumu. There is a lot of bado we are facing a lot of problems kwa kuendesha hii uchumi yetu. That is why tunapata watu wengi wanalia saa hii, wanasema ile ahadi ambayo serikali walifanya kuweka pesa kwa mifuko hatujaifikia bado. Watu wetu wanaishi kwa living on hand to mouth. Yani watu umaskini bado kumedhikidhiri kwa hii dunia nchi yetu. So ndipo ninasema serikali lazima iangalie vizuri vile wanapeleka mambo ya taxation huko chini, ama vile wanapanga kuwatengeneza watu wetu walipe ushuru, na kufikiria ya kwamba ile yenye itapaki wataiendeza hawa. So afadhali irudishwe. Lazima wafanye kitu ambao watu tunaita affirmative action, kwa sababu tutaelekeza pesa zetu kifipi kwa wale ambao wameathirika kwa mambo ya uchumi. Kwa sababu wakati wa Kibaki unakumbuka kulikuwa na kitu ambao walikuwa wameita economic stimulus. Yani hizi pesa za serikali zisizoenda kwa in circulation, hakuna kazi itakuwa ikifanyika kwa wananchi.
Okay, asante sana daktari kwa muktadha huo. Nikirudi kwako CPO Pondo. Daktari Joseph Rotich amezungumzia kuhusiana na idadi kubwa ya Wakenya ambao ni maskini. Budget policy statement kwa njia gani inafaa iwe rahisi kwa Wakenya wengi, ama ndio mwanzo inawaumiza? Mahali ulipokaa kama mhasibu.
Asante sana. Nataka kusema hivi. Umaskini kweli huko.
CPA, naomba tena usongee mbele ya kipaza sauti.
Umaskini kweli huko. Lakini la muhimu kujua ni kwamba kama unalala njaa, utaenda ufanye kazi? Wezi. So lazima uwe na chakula, si ndio? Na kama chakula utakuwa mgonjwa. So wapi serikali? Nitaka kujibu kwamba kama ungekuwa kwa hiyo kiti kama mtaalamu, utaangalia kwanza utakuwa na chakula kwanza, ambaye agriculture imepata nini? I think agriculture imepata, wacha niende na figures. Agriculture imepata elimu, first of all ujinga.
Ndiyo.
Or ignorance. Ignorance kitu muhimu sana, ni kitu serious sana. So education ndio stimulus. Mtu mwenye najua hata ukienda kulima kufanya agriculture yenu hauna elimu, my friend, very little will become out of it. So number one, unaangalia elimu kwanza, upatie foundation strong. Na wamepatiana education wamepatiana 718 billion. Alafu wakaangalia tena nini ingine, kaangalia agriculture wakapatia 444 billion. Alafu naangalia infrastructure, infrastructure I think ndio 444 billion. Alafu naangalia afya, health, you can only do so much kama kumzima. Yes. Hata shule unaenda kama kumzima kama kwa mzima. So health lazima tuangalie, wameweka hapo. But shida kubwa tunayo ndio ambayo tunakubaliana, accountability iko chini. Hiyo tunakubaliana, accountability, na tumesema kama ISPAC, accountability na transparency iko chini. Na bado tunasukuma hata hapo sisi. Tunasukuma hapo, hapo alitengeneza kidogo, because hata hii budget hata kwa kuweka 4.2 lakini impact huko kwa ground haipatikani. Lazima tuangalie system zetu. Na systems ni binadamu na equipment na technologies, ndio. So the system ni binadamu, hapo ndio shida challenge big iko. I think culture yetu lazima tufanye kitu. Yes.
Na hapo tu labda ni effects gani, naomba utumie layman language kwa sababu wengi hatuelewi mambo ya economy. Labda ni effects gani ambazo zinatarajiwa na mabadiliko ya kutumia mfumo maarufu wa zero based budgeting? Mwanzo mfumo ni mfumo gani kwa ule anayetusikiliza, na both kwa serikali na kwa sisi kama taxpayer itaathiri vipi matumizi ya pesa za umma?
Budgeting. Nataka kusema hivi. Kama ningekuwa mtoto wangu namwambia na hiyo ndio the best approach, tamwambia kama nilikuwa huu mwaka na budget ya 40,000 lakini nimespend 20,000, sasa 20,000 hii itarudi huko kama pesa ilikuwa itarudi huko, lakini sasa hatutaka forward tukuongezee pesa nyingine kwa hiyo yako. Hata sasa tukifanya budget ya next year, tuseme kama ilikuwa state corporation tulikuwa na budget ya 2 billion,
ndio
umepewa, sasa umespend 1 billion, to carry forward 1 billion alafu tukuongeze nyingine. Tunasema pana we start afresh, zero and the point zero, so that sema sasa unataka nini. Hakuna ati kama ulikuwa na deni pia sasa wanasema kama kulipa just tengeneza tu budget ingine, useme kuna deni fulani ndio kulipa, alafu iko considered fresh. Yes.
Okay. Nirudi kwako Biki Prono. Je, unahisi kabla hii bajeti kuweza kusomwa, makadirio ya bajeti ama budget estimates ama ule mswada wa kifedha, lazima sauti ya mwananchi isikike, ama tu nije tu kwako umesema nini lakini mimi mwenyewe najua nimeshapanga nini?
Public participation ama kuhusisha wananchi ni kitu ambayo lazima ipewe kipaumbele. Na lazima mwananchi aelezewe kabisa, aweze kuelewa hizi terms ni nini, kwa sababu bwana Opondo akiongea tunasikia economical terms, but yule mwananchi wa kawaida haelewi hii expenditure ni nini, recurrent expenditure ni nini, na pia aweze kuelezewa kwamba hii pesa itakuja, yani ninajaribu kusema ni kwamba mawasiliano iweze kufanywa ikuwe very simplified, iweze kueleweka kwa urahisi, ili tuweze kuelewa, kwa sababu tukiangalia mwaka jana kulikuwa na issue na hiyo finance bill ya mwaka jana.
Yes, waka jenzi wakaandamana.
Kabisa, wakaandamana. Na kuandamana ni kwa sababu gharama ya maisha iko juu tayari. Sasa ni kuongeza mzigo juu ya mzigo mwingine. Sasa kwa sababu ya mwaka jana, hii budget ya hii mwaka itapata resistance. Na ndo serikali iweze kujenga imani na wananchi, ni muhimu iweze kuelezea tofauti ya mwaka jana na huu mwaka, na zile steps ambazo inachukua ili waweze kuelewa vile pesa zao zitatumiwa.
Wewe ni public trainer.
Yes.
Kuna mwananchi ambaye anakutizama sasa na kuna yule anayekusikiliza. Labda uwezo ukamfunza nini kabla ya masuala ya bajeti? Pengine kuna wananchi watafikiwa sio kutoa maoni yao, lakini wanasema sisi tutataka unga, tutataka mahindi, tutataka maharagwe.
Cha muhimu ni kusema ukweli yao, kuzungumza ukweli yao na kusema kwamba tunataka hii bila kuogopa. Alafu pia isikae ni kama hii knowledge ama hii kuhusu economy ni watu fulani. Kila mtu aweze kuongea ili tuweze kusikia sauti yao, na pia serikali iweze kutilia maanani yale ambayo yanasemwa.
Nikirudi kwa Daktari Joseph, kushirikishwa kwa umma, public participation, je, huwa tu iko kwenye katiba, kwenye maandishi, ama maoni ya wananchi huwa yanapokelewa na kuweza kufanywa kazi na Wizara ya Fedha na kamati mbalimbali za bajeti bungeni?
Kulingana na ile experience ambayo tumepitia, kuna mambo mengi yametupita. Kama sasa tumeona mambo ya kotini ikisema hii kitu ambayo ilifanywa na serikali sio halali. Na kwa sababu gani? Wananchi hawakuhusishwa. So hiyo mambo ya kuhusisha wananchi kwa kila chambo, hasa kitu ambayo itawahusu wananchi wenyewe, lazima wawe wamehusishwa katika wakati wa kuunda hiyo kitu. Public participation hiyo iko kwa katiba chetu, na ni lazima kila mwananchi wa Kenya ambao atakaramika kwa mambo ya kulipa ushuru ajue ni nini serikali inapanga kuwafanyia. Hiyo ni kitu cha muhimu sana. So na kufanya mambo bila kuhusisha wananchi, hapo sasa serikali inachikosea, kwa sababu serikali yenyewe ni ya wananchi. So huyu mwananchi mwenye atakaramia ile matumizi ya serikali, ile pesa ambazo inalipwa kwa kupitia ushuru, lazima wahusishwe. Hawa ni matajiri wa hii nchi. Hawa wananchi ambao tunasema, na tukisema budget process ama budget making, inaanza huko chini, haianzi juu. kwa sababu ni matakwa ya hao wananchi ambao lazima tuyatimizie ama lazima tuyafanye, kwa sababu ni nchi yao ambao wameichukua, ni serikali yao. So wachache wakifanya kama wenye wamechakuliwa sasa. Umesikia kwamba rafiki yangu amesema hii maneno bado itaenda kwa bunge. Bunge, nani yako kwa bunge? Ni yule mwakilishi wa wananchi wa Kenya, ni mbunge. So ni kwa sababu hata saa hii tunawaambia wananchi wa Kenya kama hawajapata hii jawabu ama kama kuna maswali ambao wanaweza wanataka kuuliza juu ya hii budget yetu, waongee na wabunge wao huko nyumbani, wahusishwe, waulizwe na hawajibu hao, kwa sababu hao wako huko kwa sababu ya hawa. Na ni kwa sababu ya hiyo tunataka kusema pole, lazima wananchi wahusishwe kutoka mashinani, ili tunapounda hii budget itakuwa budget yao, na hata wakiwa wanagharamia budget yao, kwa sababu wamehusishwa kutoka mwanzo mpaka mwisho. Na ndipo sababu ninasema ngawaje rafiki yangu amesema lazima wananchi tuwahusishe, lakini lazima tuelimishe wananchi waelewe ni nini inaendelea. Madam amesema wengi wa matamshi ambao tunatamka ni ya kiuchumi, ambao ni ya wale ambao wamesoma, ni wasomi. Lakini hii budget sio wasomi peke yao, inawahusu kila mwananchi wa Kenya, akiwa amesoma ama hajasoma. So ndipo sababu lazima tuwaelezee wananchi katika ile lugha ambao wanaelewa, katika ile hali ambao watajua kwa hii budget kuna nini na nini na nini, ili isije ikawa kitu ambao wanapewa kama blanket kind of thing. Na ninataka kusema wananchi wanalia. Asa sisi wenyewe ambao tumesomea mambo ya uchumi, tunaona hali ilivyo sio mzuri sana, wananchi hawajafurahia. Na sio kwa sababu serikali hajafanya, ni kwa sababu mahali penye tulianzia ama mahali hii serikali walianzia kazi ilikuwa mbaya zaidi kuliko mahali penye tuko saa hii. Ndipo sababu ulisikia rais akisema mahali tuko saa hii tuko mahali safe, tunaweza sasa kuinuka mahali penye tuko. Ni kwa sababu zile mambo mingi ambao haikuwa imefanywa saa hii imesawasishwa, na wananchi hawezi wakafiri, kwa sababu hii serikali tulichukua hii nchi kama ilikuwa mbaya zaidi, it was negative, it was reading negative. Saa hii hii serikali kupitia ushuru yetu wanaweza kulipa nini ushuru, wanaweza kufanya maendeleo machache. Na tena lazima ujue kuna kama sio hii deni, kuna zile miradi kubwa ambayo ilianzishwa na serikali ya zamani, na we normally call them mega projects, ambazo zinahitaji kumalizwa. So hizo zote zinahitaji pesa, na hii serikali yenyewe kuna zile makadirio yao yenyewe walikuwa wamesema wataifanyia hii nchi. Na ni pesa ndio hizi. Tunataka kumaliza zile za zamani na tunataka kuanza ile ambao waliwaahidi wananchi watafanya. So hii ni budget ambao ukiona mahali penye tumetoka kutoka 3.75 ile ya 2023-2024 ilikuwa 4 trillion na saa hii tuko 4.2, na unaona budget yenyewe inaendelea kuwa kubwa, lakini inaendelea kubwa kama ujui kama unajua uchumi haijakuwa kiasi hiyo. So hapo sasa inaleta maswali mingi, kwa sababu wananchi hawaelewi ni nini inafanyika. Mimi mwenyewe naweza elewa kama serikali imepika hatua kubwa, kwa sababu huyu ndugu yangu amesema mambo ya inflation saa hii iko chini. That means bei za vitu vingi zimeshuka chini. Lakini hata kama bei ya chakula zimeshuka chini, na hawa wenye wanakuza chakula hii, wenye wanaproduce hii chakula, wanapata mapato ambao wanahitaji.
Shikilia hapo, unanikumbusha Waziri Mutahi Kagwe akisema mtu anakuja kununua miraa hapa shilingi 200, alafu anaenda kuiuza kule Somalia na shilingi 7,000. Nirudi kwako CPA Bwana Anthony Opondo. Ndugu yangu Daktari Joseph Rotich ameweza kuzungumzia kwamba anahisi hii bajeti wakati mwingi huwa ni kama ni bajeti ya matajiri. Sijui unakubaliana naye?
Wacha mimi niseme hivi. Mimi si mwanasiasa. Mimi si mwanasiasa, yani mwanasiasa. Mimi nitasema kama professional, kama accountant. One, uchumi nakubaliana kweli mwananchi anaumia. Ndio. Because hata mimi naishi nao, ndio? Na nina familia. Budget, hata hii budget ya saa hii ina deficit. It was not balanced. Kulikuwa na deni na kulikuwa na gap yenye walikuwa pate, na kuna pesa yenye walikuwa metenga wanasema watapata from taxpayers. Lakini pia ukiona magazeti saa hii kuna ile wamepatiana, KRA imepatiana waiver ya interest. Na hiyo part ya interest ilikuwa part of the expected revenue kwa serikali. So inamaanisha nini? Kuna vitu serikali haiwezi fanya. Yes. kama wamepunguza na ilikuwa part of the revenue you must pay kupata, si ndio? Na wamepunguza because wametoa waiver kupunguza makali ya uchumi kwa wananchi, si ndio? So inamaanisha kuna impact ambayo lazima ni CS Cabinet Secretary wa National Treasury anishoe amefanya some realignment ndio apunguze vitu fulani. Apunguze kama saa hii in government wamepunguza vitu vingine kama trainings, wamepunguza allocations za hizo, si ndio? Ndio wananchi feel impact kubwa. Na nashukuru, nimesema vile nilianza, nafurahia saa hii tuna accountant kwa in charge ya hiyo. Si economist na accountant, kuna vile tunaangalianga maneno tofauti.
Ndio.
Yes. Yengine ni kwamba tulipopatiana advice tulipopatiana budget policy budget policy statement yetu, draft yetu kwa National Cabinet Secretary, ambayo ni kazi yetu kufanya kwa advice. Kuna vitu tulisema in agriculture tufanye nini. Siwezi sema kwa sababu muda ni mchache. Nikasema infrastructure tufanye nini, tulipatiana karatasi ambayo tuna hapa. Tulisema mambo kadhaa. Vile wanaweza improve agriculture, hata kani pesa wa improve aje. Na tukaangalia economy yote. Tukasema infrastructure, education ni nini kulingana na vile wamepanga, ni sisi tunaonaje education hii inaweza kuwa stimulate aje. Tukasema kama ni domestic borrowing tunaweza fanya aje, because kuna ile proposal wanataka kuborrow domestically, na ukibora hapa domestically inamaanisha wewe huwezi chukua loan kwa bank. Unaona, kama huwezi chukua, wanaona serikali iko trusted. Unajua serikali iko sangi kulipa deni lake. Ndio. Sasa ukienda kuchukua loan na serikali ndio kuchukua loan, nani itapewa loan? Bank haitakupatia loan. Kwa sababu anasema serikali italipa, it's guaranteed. So mambo kama hayo ndio tulikuwa naangalia. Na nataka kukubaliana na huyu dada kwamba communication, but pia hata vile tunaongea hapa Kiswahili, ni wangapi nasikia Kiswahili? Tunaongea hapa Kiswahili ama Kizungu? Ndio. How many are listening can understand that English or Kiswahili in this country? Ndio. Yes, hata ukienda Turkana huko wangapi nasikia Kiswahili? Ukienda seme
hata twende seme huko. Twende huko Uganda. Hata twende huko kwa Gericho. Wangapi nasikia Kiswahili? Wakongo huko wanasikia Kiswahili kweli? Basi tutumie lugha za mama asili kuwafahamisha.
Ile kitu serikali imefanya and ambayo tumesukuma, tukasema tumia county governments, mfanye public participation, tumia county governments waende na lugha ya nyumbani. Yes, waende na lugha ya nyumbani. Kama ni sema huko, enda na Kijaluo, ongelesha watu wa Kijaluo, lakini weke mtu mwenye ako na ethics. Usiende mtu anaenda kudanganya. Ndio. Unaenda peka mtu pale yeye anadanganya kwa sababu ana intention mbaya. So I think you didn't say.
Bi Kiprono, kubaliana naye kwamba communication pia ibadilishwe sasa. Ndio tuko na Kiswahili kama lugha rasmi na lugha ya kitaifa na Kiingereza, lakini anasema kwamba anahisi ujumbe pia unafaa kupasishwa kupitia lugha ya mama. Sijui unakubaliana naye?
Kabisa, kwa sababu kwa mawasiliano tuko na kitu tunaita audience analysis. Audience analysis inamaanisha kuna tofauti ya communication na information. Nikiweza kuongea lakini hatupatani, hiyo ni information. Lakini tukiweza kupatana, hiyo ni communication. Sasa inamaanisha ongea lugha ambayo mtu anaelewa, si kuhusu Kiswahili ama Kizungu. Ongea lugha ya mama mpaka yule mtu ambaye unamuongelesha aweze kukuelewa. Sasa hiyo ndio mawasiliano.
Okay, na kuna wakati mmoja waziri wa fedha John Mbadi alikuwa hapa karibu tu Jivanji akiweza kuzungumza na wananchi katika bunge la mwananchi juu ya masuala tu ya kifedha. Je, unahisi going forward huu utakuwa mfumo mzuri wa viongozi wa serikali kuweza kwenda mashinani mahali ambapo wananchi wako kuwaelezea mambo ya serikali?
Ni vizuri, lakini kile ambacho hawajitilia maanani ni kwamba watu wengi wana imani na serikali. Sasa lazima watafute wale watu ambao wanafanya watu waamini serikali, kwa sababu shida kubwa kwa upande wangu mimi naona ni imani na serikali. Sasa kile ambacho waziri wa fedha alifanya ni mzuri, lakini pia aweze kuhusisha wengine ili isikuwe Nairobi peke yake, kule mashinani, kila mahali, mpaka watu waache kuwa na hofu na serikali, na kwanza kuamini kwamba all hizi projects zote zinawasaidia na kwamba ziko na malengo ambazo ni mazuri.
Daktari Joseph Rotich, nirudi kwako. Tumeona migogoro hapa na pale, serikali kuu na serikali za kaunti wakizozana kuhusiana kupunguzwa kwa ule mgao wa serikali za kaunti. Labda kwa nini kulikuwa na kupunguzwa kwa mgao wa fedha kwa serikali za kaunti, na hili linaweza kuathiri vipi utoaji wa huduma katika ngazi za mashinani?
Kusema kweli, unajuaje ile makadiria ya wabunge, kwa sababu hata sio eti serikali kuu, wabunge, Parliament, National Assembly na Senate wamekuwa wakisozana juu ya ni pesa kiasi gani ambayo tunaweza patia the county governments. Na kusema kweli, ndugu yangu, unajua pesa kwa hii nchi inapatikana kwa hali ngumu. Na tunajua tuko na deni, tunajua mambo ya kupata ushuru bado ni ngumu kwa sababu ya hali ya uchumi ya Wakenya. Na ukiuliza chenye haitawezekana, useme unataka pesa kiasi hii, ile mfuko ambao tunapatanga haifiki hapo. Hapo sasa inaleta shida, kwa sababu unaongea kama yule mtu mwenye amefika leo kutoka Jerusalem. Sisi kama Wakenya lazima tukue Wakenya, lazima tuulize chenye inawezekana, kwa sababu tukiangalia ile budget ya county governments ilikuwa kama kitu kama 380 billion. So 380 billion ilikuwa pesa mingi. Bado ilikuwa ngumu kupata hiyo kiasi ya hicho pesa. Na bado wanaulizia kitu kama 450 billion. So hiyo kupata hiyo pesa ni kazi kubwa. Na kitu ambacho kinatatiza hii nchi, ndugu yangu, ni kuhusu mambo ya corruption. Ambao tunaangalia huko, pesa mingi zinaingia county governments, hauoni kazi, na pesa wananchi wanateseka ilhali wanalipa ushuru. So ukiangalia hazo zote, hakuna kitu muhimu ambao sisi kama Wakenya tunaweza tufurahie ama tuseme tunaweza kufurahia yenye county governments imefanya. Kwa sababu sio county governments peke yako, because kwa katiba tuko na county governments. These are default functions, yani ile serikali kuu na serikali ndogo. 47 county governments, my friend, kumanage ni ngumu. Hata bado ninaona wakati wa Uhuru Kenyatta na Rais Samoei Ruto wakati walipopata ushukani, baada ya miaka 10 nilikuwa nikifikiria wataangalia upya mambo ya county governments ili ipunguzwe. Na ukipunguzwa hizi maserikali za county governments ingetufanyia mazuri sana, kwa sababu ile kiasi za pesa ambazo zinahitajika huko singepunguka. Kwa sababu hatuoni mingi ambazo zimefanyika. Ndio. Hatuoni.
Tuendelee.
You know, lazima tuangalie ile faida wananchi wanapata kwa hizi mambo zote ambazo tunazifanya wakati huu.
Ndio.
County governments sahi kuna pesa mingi chungu nzima zimepoteza kwa kutofanyia wananchi kazi. Na bado wanahitaji pesa mingi kukarimu ile mambo ya county governments. Mimi maoni yangu huwa naona hivi: kama county governments wangekuwa wakifanya kazi zao vizuri, tena pasafi, kuongezea pesa, kama pesa ziko, lazima niseme kama pesa ziko, kwa sababu ninaiona vile pesa ama mapato za hii nchi vile zinapatanga pesa. Sinakopa kutoka nje. Unapata saa hii tukiongea, my friend, tuko na deni kiasi cha almost 11.2 trillion. Hizi pesa zote ambazo tunadaiwa na local domestic loaners na foreign donors, lazima tuzilipe. Na tulipe kwa wakati unaofaa. Sasa wakati tunapokabiliana na hizi deni zote ambazo siku mingi hatuoni ni nini ilitumika, hii pesa zote zilitumika kupitia nini? Kwa sababu kama hizo pesa zilitumika kwa njia mzuri, mapato tungeona saa hii, tungekuwa tukikuza mapato ya hizo pesa ambazo tulitumia. Lakini kwa saa hii hatuwezi tukahesabu, we cannot see where that money went. Lakini bado tunalipa kwa sababu ni deni. So tukiangalia mambo ya county governments, lazima waelewe hii nchi bado inakuwa pesa hakuna. Mambo mingi ambayo tunakaramia saa hii ni deni. Na lazima waridhike na zenye wanazipata saa hii. Kwa sababu tukiangalia saa hii 380 billion yenye wanapata saa hiyo, ni bado hiyo ni pesa chungu nzima. Lakini nasikia wabunge walikuwa wamekubali wapatia kitu kama 400 and maybe 405, which of course bado ni ngumu, lakini ninakubalia waongezewe kitu kidogo, lakini lazima wakaramike huko kwa mashinani lazima wakaramike hii pesa zinaenda wapi. Tunaona sehemu nyingine hii mambo ya National Government Considered Development Fund CDF, kazi kubwa ambayo imefanya kwa mashinani. Ukitembea kwa kila constituency unaona signboards which has painted every constituency zilitengenezwa na CDF. So maono yangu ni kuangalia kwamba hii pesa ambazo zinaitwa CDF iongezwe.
Okay.
Wakiendelea kuongeza hii county government. Kwa sababu lazima tuangazie zile pesa ambazo zinafikia yule mtu wa mashinani. Ni pesa gani ambazo inakuza maisha ya watu wetu wa Kenya.
Okay. Trophy Kiprono, tunamalizia muda wetu nasi. Labda ukiangalia ile kamera ya Bwana Njeru pale, una wito gani kwa serikali wakati huu ambapo wanajitayarisha na kusoma makadirio ya bajeti ya mwaka 2025-2026 hususan kwa mwananchi?
Ningependa kuomba kwamba serikali kuu iweze kuipea kipaumbele mambo ya mawasiliano ili mwananchi aweze kuelewa kabisa bajeti ni nini, kwa sababu tukisema ukweli watu wengi wajui bajeti ni nini. Inaanzia wapi, inamalizia wapi. Mawasiliano iteremke mpaka kule chini, kwa sababu bila mawasiliano hakuna kitu ambacho itafanyika. Mimi ningependa tu kuwasihi mawasiliano hadi wale ambao wako pale kwa grassroots levels.
Na Daktari Joseph Rotich, na wewe ukiangalia kamera ya Paulina hapo ukimalizia
lazima niseme ya kwamba wananchi wa Kenya wanaangalia serikali zao, serikali yao ifanye kazi ama inaitimize zile ahadi ambazo walizifanya wakati wa kuomba kura. Ya pili, lazima niseme serikali hii vile iko imeendelea kufanya kazi mingi tena ya muhimu, kazi mingi tena ya maana sana kwa wananchi wa Kenya. Ni mahali tu walianzia zimeelekea kidogo, kwa sababu unajua if you start wakati wa mwanzo wao walianza kwa nil, walianza kama hawana kitu chochote. Na sasa hivi vile tunaongea mambo ya inflation imeenda chini, mambo ya hali ya ngawaje bado wananchi hawajafeel ile kiwango ambao serikali wamefanya. Lakini lazima nieleze ya kwamba serikali imejaribu, imejitahidi kwa kila chambo kuona ya kwamba Wakenya wamejimudu kiuchumi. Na lazima tuangalie hivyo, na tusikubali siasa siangamize nchi, kwa sababu vile my sister amesema watu wetu wengi hawana imani. Mimi sioni kama hawana imani. Ile mambo ambayo imeendelea kwa nchi ni mambo ya siasa mbovu, siasa duni, ambao watu wanaongea tu kisiasa, wanataka unajua there is what has been orchestrated character assassination against the government, which of course mimi naona hiyo ni upuzi tu, kwa sababu mahali hii serikali ilianza mimi najua ilikuwa mbaya, na mahali tuko saa hii tumeendelea mbele. Na vile rais alisema kwa wakati huu wamesifa kila whatever space, kila crack ambayo ilikuwa kwa mambo ya uchumi, kwa mambo ya kukua kwa uchumi yetu. Na ninaamini saa hii miaka ambayo imebaki wakipanga vizuri na wakiendeza vizuri na watoe corruption, hii kitu inaitwa corruption ama kitu ambayo inatuangamiza nchi. Naweza kukueleza hii nchi itakuwa kupitia 3 years time tutakuwa tumeinuka kiuchumi. Na mimi nataka kusema ya kwamba hii Kenya ni Kenya yetu, na lazima tuichenge pamoja. Tutaicheka pamoja tukilipa ushuru. Lazima tuangalie mbele. Lazima tufanye viongozi wetu wachipige kwa kazi zao.
Asante. Bwana CPA Anthony Opondo, na wewe ukimalizia kwa sekunde 30 tu, una agenda gani? Ama ukiangalia hii kamera hapa, unamwambia nini mwananchi wakati huu ambapo mswada wa fedha unatayarishwa na vile vile pia bajeti ya Kenya inatayarishwa? Unamwambia nini mwananchi? Awe na matumaini gani?
Matumaini ninawaambia kwanza asante sana kwa hii nafasi. Mwananchi akuwe involved. Involved sijui tusemaje.
Kushirikishwa.
Ashirikishwe. Take personal initiative. Asingoje tu lazima serikali kuje. Take personal initiative kujua ni nini kwa hapo, ndio. Anaweza tumia county government, anaweza tumia national government, popote penye yako, hata kama kwa chief. Ajihusishi. Kama kuna public participation lazima aende hapo na usishwe, ndio. Yes, hiyo ndio naweza mwambia.
Alright, mtazamaji, basi kufikia hapo sina budi kutamatisha kipindi hiki. Kwa hakika masuala ya kiuchumi, masuala ya kifedha na masuala ya budget huwa ni masuala mazito sana, lakini nashukuru kwamba wageni wangu ndani ya studio wamejaribu kadiri ya uwezo wao kuweza kuelezea, na hayawezi kuisha leo. Tutayaendeleza mpaka pale bajeti itakaposoma. Mtazamaji, basi kwa niaba ya wote ambao wamefanikisha kipindi hiki nasema shukran sana. Asanteni sana wapigia picha wangu hapa ndani ya studio. Katikati yuko Bwana Njeru, huku yuko mwanadada anaitwa Pauline. Alafu huyu hapa simjui jina lakini acha nimpe Gen Z. Huyu ni Gen Z. Alafu vile vile pia asanteni sana mafundi wa mitambo upande wa redio bwana Kimani na kikosi chako kizima, na asante sana vile vile pia Ben Kamuti na kikosi chako kizima cha runinga, na asanteni sana waelekezi na watayarishi wa kipindi hiki Nancy Kemunto na vile vile pia Dennis Chisaka. Upande wa pili yupo mwenzangu anayenishikia kwa sasa upande ule Cynthia Nyango, pia nasema asante sana. Hadi Jumanne ijayo wakati sawa na huu, kipindi sawa na hiki, wageni tofauti. Jina langu naitwa Rashid Momkondo. Hii ni Zinga GMK. Asanteni.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with our music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Good Morning Kenya. My name is Vivian Dagwa, and we officially get into our health bit of the show, our health segment of the show. And today our conversation is on hemophilia, and to be specific, we're going to be looking at the management of hemophilia. And joining me for this conversation on my immediate left, we have Marilyn Magai. Marilyn Magai is a hemophilia nurse. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right, and right next to her we have Billy Mureithi. Billy Mureithi is a hemophilia parent. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's get into this conversation so that we get to understand what exactly is this condition or disorder that is hemophilia, you know, everything around it, right? Let's just bring awareness on it. If we may begin by you, Marilyn, defining to us what hemophilia is.
Okay, thank you so much. Hemophilia is a bleeding disorder that is characterized by bleeding. And it's an inherited disorder whereby the client doesn't have clotting factors. Clotting factors are proteins that are in the blood that help the blood to clot well. So when this patient doesn't have these clotting factors, this patient is able to bleed so easily. Yes.
So it means someone with hemophilia is someone who's who has an issue with their clotting has a problem, so their blood does not clot normally, right?
Yes.
And this may cause excessive bleeding whenever someone has been injured or something of the sort.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So are there different types of it?
Yes, we have two different types that we are going to talk about today. We have hemophilia A, whereby this patient lacks the factor 8, and we also have hemophilia B, where this patient is deficient of factor 9. Yeah, so we need to replace this factor for this patient to be able to clot well.
Okay, okay, we'll get into all of that so that you get to explain all that to us. Now, if I may talk to Billy. Billy, you're a parent to a child who has hemophilia.
Sure.
If you can just let us know probably just how old is the child, and when did you know, or when was it diagnosed that, you know, he has hemophilia?
First things first, thank you for having me on the bench. My child currently is 4 years old, and he was first diagnosed when he was 2 years old. Yes, at Kenyatta National Hospital.
Yeah.
Yes.
How did that happen?
At first, personally and the mom, we didn't even have any knowledge about the disease. The mom could only mention to me about seeing some bruises, seeing some clotting like fixtures on the skin of the baby. Maybe when he goes to play, when he comes back, he has a bruise, or maybe something, you know, like a bump or something. So every time I would tell the mom, it's something normal, you know, we Africans, a small bruise, just you don't go to hospital because he's a baby, something small, you just take maybe something like robe or hot water, you just, you know. But with time, the mom came to know about the condition from her family tree. Okay. Then there was a campaign at Kenyatta whereby they were trying to find more patients, to discover more people who have hemophilia. So they ran some tests on us. So that's how we came to know about the condition. Yeah, from our side.
Yeah, from your side.
Yes.
Probably, if we can speak to the nurse, is it a common condition in the country?
No, hemophilia is not a common condition. It's a rare congenital bleeding disorder. Yeah. So 1 out of 10,000 globally are hemophilia. So in Kenya, we only have 1,200 patients who have been identified as having hemophilia. Yes.
So it's a really rare condition.
It's a real rare condition.
Yeah. You had mentioned that it's inherited. So if you can just talk to us about the causes of hemophilia. Is there any other cause apart from, you know, one inheriting it?
No, this condition is usually passed down from the parents to the babies, to their children that they are going to give birth to. And this condition, we should know that it is X-linked, meaning that the X chromosome, that is the X sex chromosome, is the one that is affected. So it is because of the mutations that this patient gets this disease. So a patient who has hemophilia, that is a male, usually inherits the X chromosome that is affected from the mother. So you find that a male doesn't have an X chromosome. So this patient who is a boy will get the disease. Usually it's male dominated. Males are the ones that are affected. If it's a lady who has the affected X, she is a carrier. She is not sick. Unless she gets an extra X, two X's that are affected, she becomes hemophilia. And that is very rare. We don't have so many of the hemophilia ladies. Yes.
Is this something couples can look at or look into before, you know, planning on getting a child? Is there a way to get to know if, you know, if probably this couple, if they get a child, it's possible for them to have a child with hemophilia? Is it something that can be detected earlier?
Yeah, it's very possible, though in Kenya we are not testing the mothers who have babies for hemophilia, who are carrying babies for hemophilia currently, but it is very possible to do it.
It's possible to do that. All right, so Billy, I want you to take us through that journey, you know, after the diagnosis. You said, first of all, you were just noticing bruises here and there, but sometimes one may just feel like it's normal. The child was out playing, he got hit maybe, or, you know, or something of the sort. So from the time that it was officially diagnosed and you knew, okay, this is what my son is suffering from, to date, it's 2 years now.
Yes.
Yeah, just how has that journey been for you and your wife?
Well, it's not an easy journey. Knowing that your child won't live a normal life, like the other kids. What I mean a normal life is, I was even scared of my baby going outside to play because you don't know the magnitude of the bruises that they might come back with. Mind you, at the time, we were just so blank about it.
Yeah.
We were only depending on the clinic, a few friends, maybe we had, built a rapport with a couple of times. But all I can say is we really got a very, very good support from Kenyatta National Hospital and the Kenya Hemophilia Association of Kenya. We got tremendous support in terms of medication, in terms of advice. They even have a therapist, they have a psychologist, they have all those departments. It's all about the parent. The parent, how willing are you to come out and say that my child is hemophilic, and how bold are you enough to, to visit the clinic and everything.
Yeah.
Back to your question, it hasn't been an easy journey, but with the help of the clinic, we've been able to get medication anytime we want. We've been able to get advice anytime, even from, one call away. Yeah. So it's been good. So far, so good. And how I was 2 years ago and how I am today, it's not the same. I don't think I could just maybe sit down the way we sat here and talk about it.
Yeah, so you would say the therapies have really, the therapy has helped.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And at the back of my mind, I sit down and look at other kids and see the diseases that they, have. In this world, currently we have some crazy disease and some traumatizing ones.
Yeah.
So I sit down and I look at my child. Currently, my child, he has been through the first term of his school. He just joined school in January. It's such a joy to me, seeing your baby go to school, come back, no bruise.
Yeah.
Such an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine that I could take my baby to school. I was actually...
Because you were looking at all the risks.
All the risks.
Yeah.
For example, if he goes to school and get a deep cut, it's a mess. You can't prevent the baby from playing. Actually, plays good.
Yeah.
So seeing him grow that big... Actually, I was talking to Mary the other day. I was telling her that since the day that he joined school, up to now, he has never, ever even got a single bruise from school.
Yeah.
But at home, he does.
It happens.
It happens.
That's so interesting.
I know.
Now, Marilyn, there are a couple of things he's gotten to talk about that I want to also just maybe have you pick up from that.
Okay.
Say a hemophilic, that's what we call someone with hemophilia, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah?
Yes, or a hemophilia patient.
Or a hemophilia
or maybe
patient.
a person living with hemophilia.
Okay. So say a hemophilia patient, for example, someone like his child, right, gets a deep cut. Like, what's the first thing to do? For any normal person, and the basic first aid that we've all been taught is try and stop the bleeding by just pressing onto it or applying pressure on the injured place, the place that is bleeding. So is it any different? How do you deal with someone who's gotten a cut, someone with hemophilia?
So a patient who comes to us with a cut wound and
not even
is bleeding.
to you now, first aid, like it's in school, this child has gotten a cut. What's the first thing someone is advised to do to them?
Okay, for a patient who is still maybe at home and maybe in school and has a cut wound, the parent who is there with the kid can cover the wound, and normally we give the parents a vial of factor to go with at home.
Okay.
They should run immediately to the nearest healthcare center where they can be injected the factor. Yeah, we normally give a prescription plus a vial of factor for emergency purposes. And then from there, they can always go to the hospital for either suturing or maybe stitching of the wound. Yes.
So if they're in school and the parent is not there, is this something that maybe you've advised the parent that this child should always have what you just mentioned?
Yes, for all our patients who join school, there's a letter that is normally done by the Kenya Hemophilia Association and given to the parents so that they present to the school where the patient is going to school, so that the school is made aware of this condition. And also we have a parents group from the Kenya Hemophilia Association, which normally goes to such schools where our children are, and they go educating the teachers educating the parents and also the kids that are in that school on how to take care of a patient, of a baby who has hemophilia.
So that's the same thing applies for a grown-up.
Yes, the
who
same
has
applies.
hemophilia.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, let's talk about some of the common symptoms of hemophilia. When should one now suspect that, okay, probably this is hemophilia?
Yeah, for you to suspect that this patient has hemophilia, they will have prolonged bleeding. They will bleed longer than normal, maybe from a cut wound.
Yeah.
At times they may have nose bleeding that will go on for a very long time. At times they have bruises, like what Billy has said. At times they're having some hematomas on their skin. This shows that this patient is bleeding and they're not clotting well. And if it's a lady, maybe they're having a bleeding condition, they will have heavy menstrual periods or heavy bleeding. Yes.
It also affects a lady's menstruation.
Yes, it does. And even after delivery, they will bleed for long. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Just how has your day-to-day lives changed? You know, generally as a family, you know, having a child who has hemophilia, has it affected your day-to-day?
Well, I might not say that it has affected my day or my life in such a great way, because one thing, once he was diagnosed of hemophilia, we were taken through a process of guiding and counseling, and I accepted that my kid is hemophilic, and I just decided that that's it. Let me just find ways on how to manage it, because one thing, I can't lose my baby. I can't throw them away. I can't leave my wife, you see. So at the end of the day, it's just finding measures of how to tackle the hemophilia. So due to every course that I have undertaken, I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. It's okay for me, because you see, I was asking my wife the other day, normal babies, they do have, what do you call them, fevers, normal fevers, allergies, now left, right and center. What's the difference with this one? There's no big difference. You get a bruise, you go to hospital, get a factor, and you're good to go.
Yeah. So as long as the child is not hurt in any way, in
Yes.
case they
No,
don't
no.
get cut or whatever, they just live a normal life like
They
any other
live a
child,
normal
right?
life. They live a normal life.
Yeah.
They live a very, very normal life.
Yeah.
So the basic thing about hemophilia, what I can say is, maybe to the parents or to anybody who is new to hemophilia, just get your facts right. Just get your facts right. Love your clinic, love your clinicians. Anything small, no matter how small it is, because you're not, you know, used to this kind of situation. So you'll face different challenges from different corners. Now like the other day, we had an issue with his teeth. He got an injury while he was playing. The teeth was shaking, so I didn't know how to handle it. Do I remove it? Do I take it to hospital? What do I do? But with the help of the doctors and the Kenyatta National Hospital, we were able to maneuver it through factor. More factor, more factor, more factor, more factor. And it was good, and we are now okay.
Yeah. How regular are the clinics?
It depends. There are some clinics that we normally go maybe like once a month, or you can even go to a clinic if you have an issue with your baby. Yeah, it's not like we have clinics that are just normally maybe prescribed or recommended by the doctor, but we normally go to clinics whenever we are needed to. Yes, or maybe if you have an injury.
Yeah. All right. So, Marilyn, there's something Billy had mentioned earlier. He talked about the fact that they have to go through therapy as the parents of this child who has hemophilia, and I believe maybe for a grown-up, or I don't know when exactly the therapies begin for the patients, but just how important is that, the therapy bit of it?
Yeah, it is very important for this patient who has been diagnosed with hemophilia to go through therapy, because this is a lifelong disease. They are going to live with it, and they have to know how to take care of themselves. So usually at the point where we diagnose this patient, it is at that point that we start the therapy. We start counseling them,
Even
and just
for the really young ones, like
for the young ones, we counsel the parents
Okay.
on how to take care of the babies so that they don't get injured so fast. Because for the little babies, they need to just play games like computer games, chess, things that won't injure them, like contact sports like football, hockey. Those things are able to bring some injuries to them, and they'll keep coming to us. So we start at that point to counsel them on how to take care of their babies, so that at any point they get a bleed, they come to us. Because usually we don't have prophylaxis.